Chapter 1. In the primordial age, when chaos was first created, Pangu created the universe, and then Nuwa created the human race. The human race was born from the world, and began as the human race. A few years later, the sky cracked, and countless monsters, strange beasts, and demons rushed out from the crack. The human race was in a terrible situation, and in order to mend the crack, Nuwa went to the heavenly realm to search for the five-colored Godstone, but she did not return. The human race fought for survival, and it lasted for tens of thousands of years, and it still hasn't ended. Li Z, Primordial Age. In 221 BC, the first emperor built the Great Wall to protect the people, and to prevent the disaster of the sky cracking. Records of the Grand Historian, Volume 6. Records of the First Emperor. In 1421 AD, the mighty Divine Continent fleet went north along the Thousand Islands, passed through the Bering Strait, and arrived at the New World. The exploration team of the fleet found a Valley of Light on the New World, where the river flowed into the bottomless abyss, and where the sun rose. Therefore, the famous eunuch Ma, who led the Divine Continent fleet here, named this continent Guangzhou, which meant the state where the sun rose. The circumnavigation of the Divine Continent fleet this time opened the era of human exploration. In the following hundreds of years, the human countries, while facing the threat of space invasion, began to fight for colonies, and the Earth entered the era of the great powers. Gavin Menzies, 1421, the Divine Continent discovered the world. In 1895 AD, a terrible space invasion came to the British Isles. To the whole of Europe, this was an unprecedented disaster. The space invasion this time was an S-class space invasion, and the entire British Isles became a hunting ground for monsters. Half a year after this space invasion, the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland became history, and the British Isles became a deadland for monsters. After the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland was destroyed in the space invasion, the Western and Eastern powers used the fastest time to divide up the overseas colonies of the British Empire. A brief history of modern Europe. At the end of the 19th century and the beginning of the 20th century, a large number of top genius physicists were born in Europe. These physicists raised the human understanding of the universe to a new height, and the atom entered the vision of scientists. The destruction of Great Britain in the space invasion stimulated the nerves of the whole of Europe. The European countries realized that the whole of Europe must unite to resist the disaster that befell the entire human race. It was under this background that the Garden of Eden project began. Under the unremitting efforts of a group of genius scientists, after more than 10 years of research and effort, the Garden of Eden project succeeded. Yes, at the end of 1944, through the cooperation of the whole of Europe, our factory in Germany, our factory, made an rocket. The atomic bomb was the most powerful weapon in the world at that time, and rockets which could send it, the weapon, and rockets, the weapon, the most powerful weapon, the weapon. The weapon was a weapon, and rocket, a weapon, and named. The core of the entire Garden of Eden project was to use new and more powerful atomic weapons to defend Europe against space invasion. At that time, we didn't know that we had opened Pandora's box. On March 17, 1945, after careful planning and arrangements, the European countries participating in the Garden of Eden project agreed to launch 6 atom rockets to the British Isles. 1 minute before the atom rockets were launched, we informed the countries at the United Nations, and they were all shocked. We thought that atom landing in the British Isles would be the end of the space invasion. Humanity would usher in the dawn of a new world, and rebuild our Garden of Eden on this planet. In the observation post of the Normandy coastal defense line, we saw a mushroom cloud rising from the other side of the strait and a strong light that was hotter than the sun. Atom did not disappoint us. All 6 atoms landed where they should have landed. Those 6 places were London, Birmingham, Manchester. There was not a single person in those 6 places. Those were the places where most of the magical creatures were entrenched. Those were the nests of the dimensional invaders and the barrels of gunpowder that threatened the entire continent of Europe. Adam destroyed the nests and the bodies of the monsters, detonating the powder kegs. But in the end, it also caused an even greater disaster. Adam made the monsters lose their bodies, but those monsters also became immortal monsters and demonic spirits under the power of the atomic weapons. They lost their bodies, but they were no longer afraid of bullets, fire, or any form of physical attack. More and more demonic spirits crossed the strait and entered the European continent. They spread across the globe, bringing a catastrophe to the European continent and the world. With the help of a group of summoners, we captured a demonic spirit and studied it. We finally determined that the physical form of the demonic spirit's body was not any physical form that we knew of. That physical form was like the legendary composition of ghosts. We named that physical form Bose-Einstein condensate. The power of the atomic weapons allowed the space invaders to complete the transformation of their bodies. Only summoners could destroy the Bose-Einstein condensate demonic spirit. Adam did not replace the summoners. Instead, the summoners became humanity's last resort. How the magic box was opened, the Garden of Eden project revealed. The key to becoming a summoner was the Realm Pearl. The Realm Pearl was obtained from the Space Invaders. As long as we killed those monsters, we might be able to obtain the Realm Pearl. The biggest obstacle to fusing with the Realm Pearl was the mystery of boundary separation. This mystery of boundary separation was like the mystery of boundary separation in the legends of reincarnation. The mystery of boundary separation would make people forget everything that happened in their previous life when they reincarnated, while the mystery of boundary separation of the Realm Pearl would make people forget everything that happened after they fused with the Realm Pearl. Until today, we still don't know why those who succeeded in fusing with the Realm Pearl succeeded, and why those who failed. But no matter how difficult and dangerous it is to become a summoner, as long as the threat of space invasions exists, our footsteps to become a summoner will not stop. Humanity's efforts to fight for survival will not stop. The world's best-selling book in the 20th century, How to Become a Summoner excerpt. On the 18th of June, 1996, a team of 268 elite summoners, scientists, biologists, environmentalists, and soldiers from Huaxia and the Great Yen Republic entered the Otherworld through the Space Invasion Channel for the first time. This was a small step for 268 people, but a big step for humanity. Chapter 20 of the United Nations Charter, Provisions on the Position of Summoners in the Global Anti-Space Invasion Security Cooperation. Chapter 2. On the 24th of May, 2019, in Xianghe City, Great Yen Republic, Izhou Province, North Guang Continent, the sky was a little gloomy, and the air was drizzling with cold rain. It was the evening rush hour in the city, and the roads in the city were a little congested. The trolley buses and private cars were mixed together, and they squeezed through the narrow city roads with difficulty. The exhaust fumes of the cars were like the smoke rings of addicts in the rain and fog. They were discharged from the exhaust pipes, polluting the air in the city. Everyone was used to this kind of pollution. The electric scooter shuttled through the traffic. There was a traffic accident at a red light intersection in the distance. Two cars scraped against each other when they were turning. The owners of the cars stopped and got out. They were arguing and taking pictures on the road. The cars behind them could not move at all and were frantically honking their horns. The sound of the horns came from nowhere and began to rise and fall, and it became more and more intense. It was like a dog barking at night. As long as one sound appeared, it would soon become a mess, and the traffic on the street would be chaotic. When the raindrops turned into water droplets and slid through the window, Xia Pingan was leaning against the window and taking a nap on the Route 11 trolley bus. He was really tired. There was a lot of work in the garage these 2 days. Xia Pingan had even worked overtime at night for a few consecutive days, and he worked more than 18 hours a day. For the past few days, he ate in the workshop and slept in the garage. Today, he finally finished his work at the desk with great difficulty and could finally go home to rest. With a day of holiday, he could have a good weekend. Xia Pingan was 21 years old this year, but he had been working as a car mechanic in the garage for 5 years. Because he had been working as a car mechanic for a long time, the young Xia Pingan would have a faint smell of engine oil on him as long as he did not shower for half a day. His face was a little pale because he had not been exposed to much sunlight all year round. Compared to other young people of the same age, Xia Pingan also appeared to be a little slovenly. At this moment, he was wearing a set of sportswear that was neither new nor old. When he leaned against the window and fell asleep, a few strands of black hair stuck to his forehead sleepily, pressing down on his pair of thick black eyebrows. In Xia Pingan's ears, the sound of car horns sounded vague like a distant horn. Not until the driver of the number 11 rail bus also sounded the horn twice impatiently did the sound wake Xia Pingan up. Xia Pingan looked at the street outside and found that the bus had only passed 5 stops. It was still in the city and was still some distance away from home. The traffic police had already rushed over to deal with the traffic accident in front of them. The traffic jam was slowly being cleared up, and the huge traffic was wriggling on the road. Having not rested well for the past few nights, Xia Pingan wanted to close his eyes and take a nap. Just as he closed his eyes again, the phone in his shirt pocket suddenly vibrated continuously. Almost at the same time, everyone's cell phones in the entire car started vibrating and ringing, making all kinds of vibrations and ringtones. The car, which was originally quiet, suddenly became as noisy as a big shop. Everyone in the bus took out their phones at the same time. Xia Pingan could not sleep anymore. He took out his phone and turned it on. He saw the eye-catching red light flashing on the screen. The built-in anti-air intrusion security app in the phone had been activated. We have detected the signal of a space intrusion. The space intrusion is in the northwest of Xianghe City. You are now in the affected area of the space intrusion. When you see this message, please immediately go to the nearest refuge. Follow the rules of the refuge manager and enter in an orderly manner. The security forces and summoners of the Committee of Order have been dispatched. They will arrive at the area of the space intrusion as soon as possible to protect your safety. According to our calculations, the most suitable refuge for you is the Iron Cloud building on Qingyun Middle Road. It is 270 meters away from you. The National Committee of Order of the Great Yan Republic. Below this message was the navigation map of the Iron Cloud building on Qingyun Middle Road. The networked satellite in space gave a timely warning when it found an area with abnormal gravity. The phone's built-in app instantly sent a message. The computer and big data automatically calculated the location of the space intrusion area and the number of people affected. The nearest and best refuge was automatically assigned to each person. At this time, one could feel the benefits of technology. The content of this message woke Xia Pingan up instantly. It was as if a basin of cold water had been poured on him from head to toe. He did not feel sleepy at all. Almost at the same time, the toothpaste advertisement on the TV of the tram bus was automatically cut off. The TV began to broadcast this message. The other people on the bus received the message. "Driver, open the door." Someone on the bus was already shouting. "Space intrusion! Space intrusion! Those monsters are coming! Let me out!" The people on the bus were panicking. Some of them were pale, some of them were trembling, and some of them began to scream hysterically. It only took a few seconds for the originally lifeless carriage to go from tranquility to madness. It was too unexpected and too sudden. The people on the bus were not prepared at all on this bus. Apart from a few students, most of the people on the bus at this time were office workers. However, space intrusion was like this. It would not give you any time to prepare. It would come as it pleased. The driver of the tram bus, who was angrily honking the horn on the bus, stopped the bus immediately and opened the front and back doors of the bus. The people on the bus were in a panic. They squeezed forward and backward and ran out of the bus amidst the noise. The people on the street outside probably received the same message and reminder. In just a few seconds there were dozens of collisions and other traffic accidents on the street. The traffic on the road was paralyzed in an instant. The people who had been riding their electric scooters and bicycles on the streets abandoned their electric scooters and ran towards the nearest shopping mall or building. The nearest shelter was downstairs in the shopping mall or building nearby. All buildings with 7 floors and above had shelters downstairs. The doors of private cars opened one by one. The people in the cars left their cars on the road in a panic. They all got out of their cars in the rain and ran to the shelters on both sides of the street. Some private cars rushed onto the curb and the roadside flower bed. The drivers also quickly got out of their cars and rushed to the shelters. The driver of the bus opened the side door next to the driver's seat and jumped out of the bus. He followed the crowd and ran to the street. At this time, for everyone, saving their lives was the most important thing. The streets were in complete chaos. People were running like ants to the best shelter they could find on their phones. Some of the shops on the side of the street had started to put down their safety doors and shutter doors. Xia Pingan did not squeeze with the people in the bus to the front and back doors of the bus. Instead, he opened the window and exposed the window. He leaned out of the window and put his hands on the inside of the bus. His body gently slid out and he nimbly got out of the bus. Woo, 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 woo. The space invasion alarm on the nearby high-rise building had already sounded, shaking everyone's eardrums. The cold rain fell on Xia Pingan's face. Xia Pingan looked up and saw that the dark clouds in the sky had unknowingly turned into a strange dark red. Above the dark red clouds, there was a huge whirlpool rotating. The whirlpool seemed to lead to another world. It was a bit scary. The dark red clouds were the sign of a space invasion. And it seemed that the scale of this space invasion was not small. It should be an F-grade space invasion. Maybe an E-grade space invasion, Xia Pingan said in his mind. It had been 21 years since he came to this world. Before that, he had experienced 3 space invasions and escaped from the shelters several times. But the previous 3 space invasions, the highest level was F-grade. In a small town outside the city, the residents of the town received the alarm and hid in their shelters. Not long after, the space-invading creature was eliminated by the security forces of the National Committee of Order. That year, Xia Pingan was just 7 years old. The next 2 space invasions that Xia Pingan experienced were G-grade. It was scary but not dangerous. 5 years ago, Xia Pingan's parents died in an accident. At that time, he had a younger sister at home. Over the years, Xia Pingan and his younger sister depended on each other. Along the way, as the elder brother, Xia Pingan also took on the responsibility of taking care of his younger sister. Xia Pingan's younger sister was called Xia Ning. She was 19 years old and a sophomore. She was studying at the Izhou Academy of Fine Arts and lived on campus. The school had a shelter that allowed students to enter the shelter in the shortest time possible. Thinking that Xia Ning could quickly enter the school's shelter, Xia Pingan felt relieved. He followed the crowd on the street and rushed to the nearest shelter. Congratulations to Shu Yu, Shui Lai under the heavens. Chapter 3. The fallout shelter was on the 3rd and 4th floor of the skyscraper's basement. The people who entered the fallout shelter could use the elevator, the parking lot, and the public passageway to enter the fallout shelter. A few hundred meters was not a long distance, and Xia Pingan was very fast. In less than 2 minutes, he had rushed to the Iron Cloud skyscraper on Qingyun Middle Road. He was holding a 2-year-old boy in his arms, and a pale-faced middle-aged woman at his side. They followed the surging flow of people into the fallout shelter's express passageway. The passageway flashed with red light. Everyone enter in an orderly manner, don't crowd. Everyone enter in an orderly manner, don't crowd. A few uniformed skyscraper security guards were shouting with loudspeakers in the passageway. The surrounding people were panicking. Xia Pingan saw that a few white-collar women had lost their high heels when they ran over. They were barefoot when they entered the fallout shelter. A few men with big bellies were sweating profusely from running. They unbuttoned their neckties and shirts. When Xia Pingan ran over, he saw a middle-aged woman carrying a child get out of a private car. She couldn't run fast, so he picked up the child and ran in with the middle-aged woman. The child was not heavy. Carrying him was not much heavier than carrying a takeout. After a bunch of technological enhancements, the anti-space intrusion security app could give a 5-minute warning when the surveillance satellite sensed a gravitational anomaly. In the city, the distance of the fallout shelter allocated to everyone through computers and big data was within 5 minutes. As long as one entered the fallout shelter within 5 minutes, there was a high probability that they would be fine. However, there were always accidents. It was impossible to be perfect. If there was no fallout shelter near your area, and the space intrusion happened to be near you, or in some extremely short period of time, a few space intruders could break through the fallout shelter's sturdy defensive layer, or if you did not enter the fallout shelter within 5 minutes, then you could only pray for your own good. Once they entered the fallout shelter, Xia Pingan handed the child he was carrying to the pale-faced middle-aged woman. Thank you, thank you. The middle-aged woman hugged her child tightly. She was grateful to Xia Pingan. You're welcome. The underground shelter was like a huge quarantine chamber. The underground shelter of Iron Cloud Tower was divided into 4 sections. The people who entered the underground shelter were separated at the entrance and separated into 4 separate shelters. This design was to protect the safety of the people in the fallout shelter to the greatest extent in case of an accident. For example, if there really was a monster that could break through the several meters thick concrete protective layer and the steel safety door of the shelter, then the monster that entered the shelter could only enter one isolation chamber at a time. The other isolation chambers were still safe. Such a design was similar to the watertight compartments on a ship. If one compartment was flooded, the entire ship would not sink. Xia Pingan and the middle-aged woman entered Fallout Shelter Number 2. Fallout Shelter Number 2 was brightly lit and was the size of 4 basketball courts. The height of the shelter was not high, only less than 3 meters. People kept coming in, and in a short while, 500 to 600 people had squeezed into Fallout Shelter Number 2. The passage to the shelter is about to close. The passage to the shelter is about to close. When the 5 minutes were up, the steel door of the shelter closed with a loud bang. The inside of the shelter was immediately isolated from the outside world. The people in the shelter also let out a sigh of relief. In the shelter, to prevent rumors from causing panic, everyone's mobile phone signal was cut off and isolated. There was a screen in the shelter that was responsible for relaying news and notices from the National Committee of Order and the government. Everyone could only wait for the notice. Only after the invasion of the space outside had been removed could everyone leave. The shelter was in chaos, and it was difficult to calm down. Some people were sobbing softly, while others were looking for their lost wallets, phones, and shoes. Xia Pingan found a remote corner, leaned against the wall, and sat down, waiting quietly. When the space invasion monsters were eliminated, they would be able to leave. This time depended on the severity of the space invasion. It could be as short as a few hours, or as long as a few days. If it was longer, then it would be a complete disaster. Generally, public shelters had a certain amount of food and water reserves, which could allow people to survive for half a month to a month. Large public shelters were even connected to the supply warehouses of large supermarkets in the city and the underground war preparation tunnels. In less than a few minutes, Xia Pingan heard the faint sound of an explosion coming from outside. As soon as the sound was heard, the noise in the shelter instantly stopped. The entire shelter was silent. Even the people who had been sobbing in a low voice stopped. The people who were looking for things also stopped. Drones, it should be our drones that came first. They are already cleaning up the space invasion creatures outside. Next to Xia Pingan, a man in his 40s who was sitting on the ground swallowed his saliva and whispered to himself. This man seemed to have rich experience in dealing with space invasions. In the city, the Committee of Orders drones can immediately rush to the scene of space invasion and launch the first wave of attack. The explosion just now was so loud that it could be heard in the shelter. It might have been a high-altitude thermobaric bomb. The sound came from the air. An intellectual man wearing glasses pushed his glasses up and whispered, "The high-explosive bombs of the drones won't land in densely populated urban areas and forests that can easily cause fires. If it was in the city, no one would have the chance to use the more accurate blade missiles. Everyone will be fine." As soon as the man next to him finished speaking, the lights in the shelter flickered, and the entire shelter suddenly fell into a state of darkness. Then, someone screamed. 2 seconds later, the dark red lights in the shelter were turned on, and a voice came from the loudspeaker. "Everyone, don't be nervous. In order to avoid causing a fire, the public power in the city was actively cut off. The emergency engine in the shelter has been activated. The situation in the shelter is normal. Please wait patiently." Only then did the restlessness in the shelter calm down. Xia Pingan, who was sitting in the corner, closed his eyes and began to focus his attention. In just a few seconds, a clear image appeared in Xia Pingan's mind. It was the scene outside the building. In just a few minutes, there was no one on the street outside the building. There were parked cars everywhere on the street, and it was still raining. In the clouds above, strange dark red clouds were tumbling in the air. The rotating clouds were like a tornado and the tentacles of an octopus. They split into several parts and extended from the sky to the ground. Whoosh! There was an ear-piercing sound in the air. 2 drones quickly whizzed past the top floor of the building, one on the left and one on the right. They rushed towards the swirling clouds in the sky. After flying for 1,000 meters, flames flashed under the wings of the 2 drones. 2 missiles drew 2 lines of fire in the air as they flew towards the tumbling dark red clouds. 2 huge dazzling lights exploded in the gloomy sky, and then a huge explosion sounded in the sky above the city. It was like a thunderclap, and the glass on the window of a tall building in the distance was shattered. The 2 cloud tornadoes that extended from the strange dark red clouds in the sky were blown apart by the explosion. Red rain and minced meat fell from the sky. After more than 10 seconds, the sound of the explosion was heard again in the fallout shelter. In the midst of the loud explosion, on a street more than 1,000 meters away from the Iron Cloud building, the dark red clouds tumbled. After the clouds dissipated, more than 20 demon rats suddenly appeared on the ground. Those demon rats were even bigger than lions. Excluding their tails, they were nearly 2 meters long. Their eyes were blood-red, and they had sharp teeth. After appearing on the ground, those demon rats stayed still for 2 seconds. After looking around, they began to scatter in all directions. One demon rat was running like a rhinoceros. It rushed onto the road and fiercely knocked away a car parked on the roadside. It then ran onto the city road and disappeared in the blink of an eye. Another 2 demon rats smashed the door of a nearby hotel and immediately rushed into a nearby hotel. One of the demon rats was a bit slow. After rushing a few steps, a strange sound came from the sky. A missile with blades fell from the sky and accurately hit that demon rat. The sharp blades sliced over at high speed, completely shredding that demon rat into a pile of flesh and blood, leaving only a pit on the ground. Several helicopters flew over from afar. As soon as the helicopters hovered in the air, they dropped rope. Teams of fully armed special forces in black combat uniforms grabbed the ropes and flew down from the helicopters. One team entered the hotel, while the others were chasing after the other demon rats. Helicopters continued to fly over and drop off teams of fully armed combat squads in the areas where the demon rats had appeared. Xia Pingan saw a man in a black leather windbreaker and sunglasses directly jump off the helicopter, which was over 10 m above the hotel in the heavy wind and rain without holding rope. He then steadily landed on the roof of the hotel. After that, he flashed and entered the hotel. After a few seconds, fierce gunshots drifted from the hotel. After a short while, a window of a room on the 3rd floor of the hotel was suddenly broken. A demon rat broke through the window and jumped off the windowsill on the 2nd floor before landing on the ground. It was that man in a black windbreaker and sunglasses who closely chased after that demon rat from the balcony of the 3rd floor of the hotel. He was holding a black short-barreled large-caliber shotgun. When he was still in the air, he had already fired his shotgun. Blood spurted out from the demon rat's body as it was severely wounded. Seeing that man chasing after it, the demon rat turned around and intended to escape. Fire! The man pointed at the demon rat with his hand, which didn't hold a gun, in the air as he roared. Closely after that, a scorching flame suddenly jumped up from the puddles on the ground and wrapped up the demon rat. The demon rat shrieked as it turned into a flaming torch, evaporating the water vapor around it in a split second. The man in a black leather windbreaker and sunglasses steadily landed on the puddles on the ground from the 3rd floor. In the blink of an eye, the burning demon rat became a pile of ashes in the flame. Right then, the ground suddenly bulged up while the bricks and mud flew away. A monster that was 5 to 6 meters long, as thick as a gasoline barrel, with a body like an earthworm but a head full of sharp teeth, suddenly drilled out of the ground. It opened its mouth and bit at the man wearing a black leather trench coat and sunglasses. The man opened fire. The large-caliber pistol bullets hit the monster's body, creating sparks. However, the monster that had drilled out of the ground was unharmed. The monster's skin was covered in a thick layer of quartz, like armor. Watching the monster biting towards him, the man abruptly jumped back in an unimaginably agile way. He almost jumped onto the balcony of the 2nd floor of the hotel, which was over 4 m high. After that, the man waved his hand as he uttered 2 words, "Slave soldier." With a light flashing on the ground, a strong, far ancient warrior with bare feet appeared in front of that earthworm-like monster at once. His body was covered with a layer of red light. He was wearing animal skin and holding a long spear. The warrior waved his long spear and stabbed into the monster's body. Green blood spurted out of the monster's body and sprayed all over the ground. The moment the blood touched the ground, it corroded the ground with a sizzling sound. The roof of a car on one side was directly corroded into numerous holes. The monster turned around and swallowed the summoned warrior in one gulp. A few seconds later, the monster's body suddenly twisted in pain and rolled around on the ground, making a mess of the flower bed outside the hotel. However, before the monster could roll around a few times, a dagger pierced through the monster's abdomen. Then, with a slash of the dagger, the monster's body was directly cut from the middle, and the 2 halves fell to the ground. The summoned warrior that had just been swallowed by the monster drilled out of the monster's stomach with green blood all over his body. After taking a few steps, he turned into specks of red light and dissipated in the air, leaving only the monster's corpse on the ground. Only then did the team that had just rushed into the hotel retreat. Of the 10 people who had just entered, only 7 came out. 3 of them were injured and covered in blood. They had to be carried out on someone's back. One of the injured team members had his arm separated from his shoulder and was being carried by another team member. The helicopter landed and quickly left with the injured team members. The rain in the sky became heavier. While leading the other team members to chase after another demon rat, the man in the black leather windbreaker and sunglasses suddenly stopped, turned around and glanced at Xia Pingan. This glance was like a face-to-face meeting with Xia Pingan. Xia Pingan felt that the man in the black leather windbreaker and sunglasses seemed to have seen him. Xia Pingan was slightly surprised. Xia Pingan, who was still in the fallout shelter, suddenly opened his eyes and softly muttered to himself, "Is this a summoner? So strong, he can actually see me." Xia Pingan closed his eyes again. A few seconds later, Xia Ning's face appeared in his mind. Seeing that Xia Ning was indeed in the school's fallout shelter, Xia Pingan was relieved. Xia Pingan opened his eyes again and then closed them again. This time, Xia Pingan really began to lean against the wall and take a nap, resting his mind and waiting for everything outside to end. Chapter 4. Xia Pingan's nap turned into a long sleep. Although the shelter could not provide a comfortable bed, he still slept in the shelter. He stayed in the shelter for a whole night, more than 14 hours. During this night, everyone in the shelter waited anxiously. On the electronic display in the shelter, there was only one message that was constantly being broadcasted. The situation outside is under control. The space invasion creatures are gradually being eliminated. Please wait patiently. At 7:00 the next morning, there was finally a different message on the electronic display in the shelter. Order in Xianghe City is being restored. The space invasion alert has been lifted. The green light on the shelter's safety door lit up, and the safety door reopened. Everyone in the shelter dragged their limping bodies and walked out again, as if relieved of a heavy burden. The space invasion level is F+. The invading creatures are demon rats and sandworms. There are 137 demon rats and 5 sandworms. We have killed 133 demon rats and 5 sandworms. 4 demon rats escaped through the river. We have sent out teams to pursue and search for them. We welcome everyone to provide clues. The space invasion alert in Xianghe City has been lifted. Power and water supply have been restored. Other public services are gradually being restored. Some areas are still under lockdown. There are follow-up anti-epidemic and disinfection procedures. Please cooperate. The casualties of our personnel in this space invasion are still being calculated. You can pay attention to the follow-up news bulletin. Great Yen Republic National Committee of Order. The moment he walked out of the shelter, Xia Pingan's phone vibrated again. Xia Pingan took out his phone and saw the message on the security application for the air defense room invasion. Then, just as Xia Pingan walked out of the safety passage and onto the street outside, he received another message on his phone. It was from the boss of the repair shop. Yesterday, demon rats broke into our company's workshop. The company received a notice from the higher-up. We will be closed today and tomorrow for disinfection and epidemic prevention. The factory is on holiday today and tomorrow. Work will be normal on Sunday. Have a good rest. If there is anything, contact the factory immediately. Just as he finished reading this notice, Xia Pingan's phone rang again. It was a call from Xia Ning. "Brother, are you okay?" Xia Ning's tone was filled with concern and anxiety. "I'm fine. Don't worry. What about you?" The person on the other side of the phone let out a long sigh of relief. "I'm fine too. As soon as I received the notice yesterday, the school organized everyone to enter the shelter." "That's good. I'm also resting at home today. I'll cook a delicious meal at home. You can come back tonight." "Okay, brother is the best." Xia Ning giggled on the other side of the phone, as if he was not affected by the space invasion at all. After ending the call, Xia Pingan put away his phone and let out a long sigh. Yesterday's space invasion must have resulted in casualties, but life was like this. Most of the time, you didn't have the time to grieve for others, nor could you predict when an accident would happen. The various countries also hoped to minimize the impact of the space invasion on a city or region, so they did not hide it or exaggerate the tragedy and loss. Every time there was a space invasion, the news would report it as if it was a disaster brought about by an avalanche or a traffic accident. People died in the hospital every day. The number of people who died in a small space invasion was not more than the number of people who died in a city's hospital every day. and the number of people who died in traffic accidents in the fire country every year was more than the number of people who died in a space invasion. Many of the people who walked out of the shelter returned to their vehicles in a daze and tiredness. If the vehicles parked on the road were not moved in time within a few minutes, the tickets they received today would make the car owners tremble in pain. Traffic police and tow trucks appeared on the street one after another. They began to direct the traffic and clear the obstacles on the road. The traffic in the city gradually recovered. If one didn't pay attention, most people wouldn't notice the changes in the surrounding environment. The casualties had been sent to the hospital or taken away. The corpses of the demon rats were cleaned up, leaving not a single hair behind. Only in some special areas, one could see the cordon pulled up, the broken glass on the ground, and the potholes on the road that had not been repaired. From time to time, one could see anti-epidemic personnel and anti-epidemic vehicles on the road. The municipal government had already repaired the damaged street. The insurance company would deal with the loss of vehicles. When fire engines or ambulances passed by on the street with sirens, everyone would silently make way for them. Many people who hid in the shelter for a night might have to go back to work after coming out today. It was not that people were numb, but they had to get used to such a life and space invasion. Xia Pingan got on the Route 11 bus again. After waiting for a while, the driver came back. The bus gradually moved on the road. 20 minutes later, the Route 11 rail bus arrived at the old city in the south of Xianghe City. It stopped at an old bus stop. Xia Pingan got off the bus and bought some noodles, soy sauce, and dinner from a small supermarket on the roadside that was already open for business. Then he returned home. Xia Pingan and Xia Ning lived in an old neighborhood that was neither new nor old. The neighborhood's environment was not beautiful, but it was convenient. The neighborhood was very lively and the rent was not expensive. More importantly, there was a police station at the entrance of the neighborhood. There were often police cars and policemen loitering at the entrance of the neighborhood. The neighborhood's security was good. After their parents passed away, Xia Pingan and Xia Ning lived here. Xia Pingan's parents were immigrants. When they immigrated from Huaxia to the Great Yan Republic of the North Guan continent, they also bought a house in Xianghe City with a mortgage. However, after their accident, the mortgage was taken away by the bank. The Social Assistance Agency of the Fire Country once arranged for Xia Pingan and Xia Ning to be adopted. However, Xia Pingan and Xia Ning refused to be adopted. They did not want to be separated. After his parents passed away, Xia Pingan dropped out of school and went to work in the garage to earn money. These years, the two siblings didn't live well. The house that Xia Pingan rented in this community was only a small house with an attic of more than 60 square meters. In the past, there was a leak in the attic. After telling the landlord a few times, the landlord found someone to fix it. But every 2 years it had to be fixed again. Xia Pingan supported Xia Ning to study art. However, studying art was very expensive. Their main income now was the money that Xia Pingan earned from his work. Fortunately, the social welfare of the fire country was good. Xia Ning did not spend much money when he was in junior high school. He also had medical insurance when he went to see a doctor. As citizens of the fire country, Xia Pingan and Xia Ning were born in the fire country. Since they were born, they could receive a portion of the population's maternity benefits every month until they were 18 years old. Xia Ning also received an education subsidy when he went to university. Xia Pingan greeted the security guard in the lobby of the apartment building. After that, he walked upstairs along the corridor. The paint on the railings in the corridor was peeling. Xia Pingan took the things that he bought from the supermarket and climbed all the way to the 7th floor. He took out his key and opened the security door before entering the house. The house was more than 60 square meters. There were some old appliances that the landlord had brought. There were 2 bedrooms, a kitchen, a living room, and a bathroom. Xia Ning's bedroom was on the 1st floor. Xia Pinggan's bedroom was in the attic. The two siblings lived here and tidied up the small house neatly. In the living room, Xia Ning folded paper cranes of various colors. On the walls of the living room, there were many paintings of various animals and landscapes that Xia Ning had painted. These decorations made the whole house feel warm and homely. Xia Pinggan was starving. He hadn't eaten anything for almost 20 hours. The first thing he did when he got home was to cook a bowl of noodles for himself in the kitchen. After eating this bowl of noodles, Xia Pinggan felt alive again. Outside the window of the living room, he could see a beautiful mountain range in the distance. The peak of the mountain range was still covered in white snow. In Xia Pinggan's eyes, this ordinary scenery was something that he never got tired of. He even felt that it was a bit magical. Only Xia Pinggan could feel this magical feeling. Xia Pinggan could eat a bowl of ordinary noodles with the scenery of the mountain range outside with great relish. The mountain range outside was the Qianlong mountain range of the Fire Country. The reason why it was called Qianlong mountain range was because it was composed of many small mountain ranges. The Qianlong mountain range stretched for more than 4,800 kilometers and almost ran through half of the Beigang continent. The best ski resort in the Fire Country was in the Qianlong mountain range. In Xia Pinggan's eyes, the Qianlong mountain range actually had another name, the Rocky Mountain Range. Ever since 1421 AD, when eunuch Ma led the Chinese fleet to discover this new continent and named it Guangzhou, in the past few hundred years, whenever there was a natural disaster or a change of regime, there would be a large number of Chinese immigrants coming here to find a way to survive and to live and prosper. The earliest people to come to this continent were all gold diggers. The legend of striking it rich in Guang continent had influenced countless people. There were even more people who dreamed of coming to this continent to dig for gold. After a few hundred years of vicissitudes, the Great Yan Republic of today had a territory of 22.78 million square kilometers and almost occupied the entire Beigang continent. It was a powerful country with a population of 680 million. The Fire Country was also one of the 5 permanent members of the United Nations Security Council. The Divine Continent was still the Divine Continent, and China was still China. However, the world outside of China was very different. That's right, the name eunuch Ma gave to Guang continent was, the river flows from the valley into the bottomless abyss, and the Valley of Brilliance, Note 1. It was actually the Grand Canyon of Colorado. The Valley of Brilliance still had the inscription left behind by eunuch Ma when he first discovered it. With the scenery of the Rocky Mountain Range, Xia Pinggan finished his noodles. Just as he finished washing the dishes in the kitchen, the doorbell rang. Ding dong! Ding dong! It's still too early for the landlord to come and collect rent, Xia Pinggan muttered to himself. He wiped his hands in the kitchen and walked to the door. He did not use the peephole, but instead, he looked through the security door. With just one glance, Xia Pinggan's heart skipped a beat. It was the man standing outside the door. He was wearing a black leather trench coat and a pair of sunglasses. He looked very cool. Seeing this man, Xia Pinggan's mind was filled with the image of this man killing the devil rats and killing the insects. This man was a summoner who belonged to the National Committee of Order. The man took off his sunglasses, revealing an angular and resolute face in his 30s. His deep black eyes met Xia Pinggan's calmly through the thick security door. Note 1. American scholar Henriette Mertz, The Almost Faded Record. Chapter 5. Xia Pinggan took a deep breath, stretched out his hand, and opened the security door. The face of the man in a black trench coat appeared in front of him. "Hello, who are you looking for?" Xia Pinggan asked calmly. "Of course I'm looking for you." The man stood outside the door and said. Xia Pinggan thought for a moment, then turned sideways and let the man in. The man looked at the place where Xia Pinggan lived with interest. Xia Pinggan closed the door and turned to face the man. "Let me introduce myself first. My name is Mo Yanxiao. I'm the director of Xianghe City's National Committee of Order. We met yesterday. The man's eyes were sharp and bright. He looked at Xia Pingan with professional scrutiny, which inexplicably gave people pressure. The Fire Country's National Committee of Order was the most powerful organization in the Fire Country. This organization's authority and reputation were well known, not only in the Fire Country but also in other countries around the world. In various movies and television dramas, this organization and the people within it often appeared. Powerful, ruthless, and almost omnipotent, they struck fear into the hearts of all the crooks and the demonic creatures that invaded the space. Moreover, the history of the Fire Country's National Order Committee could be traced back to several hundred years ago. You're the lamplighter. Recalling the man's terrifying skills and summoning skills, Xia Pingan's eyes moved. The lamplighter title is a long time ago. We haven't used it for a long time. The Fire Country is now a country ruled by law. We're just a special group of civil servants who serve the country's interests. All our actions are within the framework of the law. We won't kill people casually, unless that person deserves to die. Young Master Moyan looked at Xia Pingan with a smile on his face. As an awakened, your long-range vision is very strong. However, when you meet someone like me, it's still easy to be discovered. Since the man was already at the door, Xia Pingan calmed down. He turned around and poured a glass of water for the man. He placed it on the table in the living room and sat in front of the man. I'm still not familiar with my ability. I didn't expect you to have the ability to see things from afar. The ability to see things from afar is rare among awakened abilities, but it's not impossible. I happen to be one of them. May I ask, when did you discover that you had this ability? Well, a few days ago. I was also surprised that I suddenly had this ability, Xia Pingan said calmly. He didn't even bother to pretend to be surprised. A few days? Who's lying? Young Master Mo Yin smirked. He knew that Xia Pingan was lying. According to the laws of the Fire Country, all awakened ones had to file their abilities with the Committee of Order within half a month after confirming their awakening. Xia Pingan hadn't gone. If this remote vision ability had been awakened in the past, then Xia Pingan had hidden it for so many years without reporting it. It was obvious that he had violated some of the provisions of the Fire Country's Public Safety Act and the Awakened Management Act. But if Xia Pingan had only awakened a few days ago, then it was natural that he hadn't reported it yet. The law couldn't hold Xia Pingan responsible. However, Mo Yanxiao wasn't here to find fault with Xia Pingan. He didn't care what Xia Pingan was like in the past. What was important was what would happen to Xia Pingan in the future. Have you shown your ability to see from afar in front of other people? Or is there anyone else who knows about your ability? Please answer truthfully. This question will affect your safety. Young Master Moyan's expression was very serious. Xia Pingan thought about it and shook his head. I've only just awakened this ability. Others don't know about it yet. You have a sister called Xia Ning. She doesn't know about it either? Xia Pingan's eyes drooped and he shook his head. She doesn't know either. Mo Yanxiao stared at Xia Pingan. He knew that this was the second time Xia Pingan had lied. Xia Pingan's sister, Xia Ning, should know about Xia Pingan's remote vision ability. The two of them had lived together for so many years. Xia Pingan's ability shouldn't have been hidden from Xia Ning. Xia Pingan shook his head because he was certain that Xia Ning wouldn't reveal this ability to anyone, even if she was questioned or standing in court. Mo Yanxiao didn't dwell on this issue. He only continued, You should report to the Committee of Order when you awaken a special ability. You should know what this ability means. Do you need me to explain it to you again? In the Fire Country, anyone who awakened or possessed a special ability had to report it to the Committee of Order. Then, the Committee of Order would make an evaluation. If the ability was useful to the country, Then the person with the ability would be forcibly recruited to serve the country, just like military service. Those who awakened with a special ability would basically directly join the fire country's National Committee of Order or other national departments. They would become a member of the country's machinery and embark on a different path. This path was filled with trials, but it was also incomparably glorious. They were serving the country and the people. At least, that was what was advertised on television. Every year, the fire country would conduct a physical examination of all the candidates before the college entrance examination. They would find talents who might awaken special abilities and then train them. In fact, it wasn't just the fire country. Other countries had similar practices. Awakened people were all special talents that were highly valued by all countries. Because Xia Pingan didn't finish high school before dropping out to work, he avoided the physical examination of the college entrance examination. His remote vision ability had never been discovered. Isn't that right? We haven't made it in time yet. As a law-abiding citizen of the fire country, I would naturally know what I have to do. I am just preparing to go report it in a few days' time. Xia Pingan said, his face still expressionless. You don't have to be nervous. I'm not here to denounce you or discuss the country's laws. Mo Yinshao said with a smile. I don't want to ask about your past. Xia Pingan let out a sigh of relief. I understand. Can you tell me why you're here? We need your help, Mo Yinshao said directly. Looking for those demon rats that ran away? Xia Pingan immediately understood. The reason why people from the Committee of Order were here was because of his ability. Yes, among those demon rats that ran away, 2 of them were female. We have to find them and kill them as soon as possible. Once they run into the wilderness and survive, it will be very troublesome. I know. I learned it in my elementary school textbooks. Eliminating demon rats is everyone's responsibility. Xia Pingan said with a smile. Demon rats can eat almost any plant, animal, carrion, grass roots, tree barks, insects, and sewage in the sewers except for stones and soil. A demon rat can survive even in the North and South Poles. What's more, they have a strong reproductive ability. They can give birth 3 times a year, and each time they can give birth to 3 to 6 demon rat. What's more, the demon rats may carry thousands of viruses and germs from other worlds. Among them, there are more than 100 kinds of pathogens that can be transmitted to humans. The most dangerous ones are zombie virus, plague, epidemic hemorrhagic fever, and mutant typhus. Yes, it's good that you know it. It's very dangerous for such space-invading creatures to run into the wilderness. They have no natural enemies and may reproduce quickly. I'm the only person in the Special Operations Division of the Committee of Order in Xianghe City who has the remote viewing ability. The other people from the Committee of Order who have the remote viewing ability are scattered in different places. It will take time for them to come here. The 4 demon rats escaped in 2 directions. Xia Pingan raised his eyebrows. Yes, I could only lead people to chase after the demon rats in one direction and keep an eye on the traces of the demon rats in one direction. However, the pursuing squad in the other direction needs to be accompanied by someone with the remote vision ability. You happen to have such an ability. Please allow me to refuse. Xia Pingan shook his head and said without thinking, even if I've awakened the remote viewing ability, I'm just an ordinary citizen of the country. I lack the ability to protect myself. Chasing demon rats is life-threatening. Therefore, I have the right to refuse to participate in such dangerous missions. I'm still in the reporting period. Before I officially report to the National Committee of Order, you have no right to force me to do anything. If you feel that I've concealed my ability, you can investigate and sue me through legal procedures. I'll respond and bear all the consequences. Mo Yinshao stared at Xia Pingan calmly. He was not surprised by Xia Pingan's refusal and stubbornness. Before coming here, Mo Yanxiao had received Xia Pingan's file and felt that Xia Pingan was not like an ordinary young man. If he was an ordinary young man, it would be very difficult for him to hide his ability as a mechanic for so many years like Xia Pingan. However, Xia Pingan did it. A young man who could hide his remote viewing ability, work for money, live in a cheap apartment, and raise a younger sister while hiding his remote viewing ability was much more mature than ordinary people. Facing such a person, it was useless to talk about principles. Even the law had limited ability to restrain them. Take Xia Pingan as an example. He obviously knew the legal consequences of concealing his ability. However, he still chose to do so, which indicated that he was prepared to bear the consequences. Such a person had a mature mind and a firm will. They had their own worldview and values. They had strict self-discipline and judgment. Methods that could make ordinary people submit were useless against them. Mo Yanxiao took a deep breath and raised 2 fingers. 20,000. Find a demon rat and you'll be rewarded with 20,000. Mo Yanxiao's words were sonorous and forceful. He went straight to the point. I know you're in need of money. This is the reward from the Committee of Order. The team with you has 2 summoners and experienced special forces from the Committee of Order. They won't put you in danger. You only need to follow them and point out the location of the demon rat. They will be in charge of the battle. You don't need to participate in the battle. 20,000? Xia Pingan rubbed his face. His expression turned righteous. Director Mo, as a citizen of the Fire Country, in the face of a space invasion, for the country and for the people, I am prepared to contribute my strength to the country and society. Therefore, I've decided to help you find the demon rats. Mo Yanxiao's lips twitched. He was surprised by Xia Pingan's sudden change in attitude. He stared speechlessly at Xia Pingan for 2 seconds. You're really... Mo Yanxiao couldn't find the right adjectives. Greedy, shameless, unscrupulous, these words could only describe some of Xia Pingan's characteristics. The Xia Pingan in front of him was difficult for Mo Yanxiao to grasp. In the few minutes he had spent with Xia Pingan, Mo Yanxiao felt that Xia Pingan was hiding another face, one that was hard to fathom. Xia Pingan sighed. He shrugged helplessly. Director Mo, it's expensive to raise a little sister who likes to draw. Moreover, I'm about to pay my rent. The landlord won't give me a cent less. Can we leave now? Can you give me an advance of 10,000? If you find the 2 demon rats, you only need to pay me the remaining 30,000. If you don't find them, the 10,000 will be my compensation for my hard work. You should have some sort of special operation fund, right? With the money, I can focus on my work. Otherwise, I'll be distracted easily. After all, I'm risking my life to help you, and I'm not getting paid. Moreover, I don't know when I'll be back and it will delay my work. Mo Yanxiao went silent for 2 seconds. Cough, cough. I don't have any money on me. Then write an IOU first. Xia Pingan turned around and took out a pen and paper like magic. Mo Yanxiao took a deep breath. He quickly wrote an IOU and handed it to Xia Pingan. Then, he watched as Xia Pingan placed the IOU in a drawer in the room. He asked in a low voice, Can you leave with me now? Wait, my little sister will be home tonight. I'll leave a note for her. Xia Pingan quickly wrote a note for Xia Ning. He pressed it under a cup and placed it on the table in the living room. After leaving the note, Xia Pingan looked at Mo Yanxiao and said firmly, You can leave now. Chapter 6. Xia Pingan followed Mo Yanxiao downstairs and arrived at the residential area. Only then did he realize that there were 2 gray-green Falcon helicopters parked on the lawn of the residential area. The 2 helicopters had the insignia of the National Committee of Order on them. A few Special Forces members in black combat uniforms were standing beside the helicopters with guns in their hand. Fortunately, there weren't many people in the residential area at the moment. The two Falcon helicopters didn't cause too much of a commotion. Only a group of uncles and aunties who didn't go to work and a few housewives were curiously looking at the helicopters. They were whispering and pointing at them. The residential area's security guards were also maintaining order around the lawn. The effects of yesterday's space invasion were still present. Everyone thought that the arrival of the two helicopters might have something to do with yesterday's space invasion. Under the gaze of a group of people, Xia Pingan, who was still in his sportswear, followed Mo Yanxiao and quickly arrived in front of one of the Falcon helicopters. There were 9 people sitting in the cabin of the helicopter. 7 of them were fully armed Special Forces members. There was also a burly bald man and a beautiful woman with a cold temperament. The bald man's body was as strong as an ox. His muscles were like the rocks on a hill. Beside him was a wide machete that was more than a meter long. The short-haired beauty was in her 20s. She had short black hair and red lip. She was wearing a leather suit that showed off her curvaceous body. On one side of her thighs was a pistol and the other a dagger. She was like a thorny rose that wasn't to be trifled with. The woman was concentrating on operating a tactical computer in front of her. Her fingers were flying across the keyboard of the computer. Maps were constantly changing on the screen of the phone in front of her. Old 2, this is Xia Pingan. I'll leave him to you, Mo Yanxiao said to the burly man. Then, he looked at Xia Pingan. Follow them. Xia Pingan nodded. He quickly boarded the helicopter and sat beside the burly man. Mo Yanxiao ran to the other helicopter not far away. Kid, you're not bad. You've hidden your clairvoyance abilities so well. Xia Pingan had just boarded the helicopter when the burly man grinned at Xia Pingan. His mouth was full of metal teeth. It was a daunting sight. He even handed Xia Pingan a noise-canceling headset. Xia Pingan took the noise-canceling headset and put it on. The helicopter's hatch opened. The helicopter's rotors were already rotating, making a loud roar. The lawn on the ground was blown to the side. The people who were watching the show around the lawn were blown away. The helicopter quickly took off and the other helicopter also took off, and the two helicopters separated in the air. The residential area on the ground became smaller. The buildings and vehicles of the entire city flew by quickly. After flying for a few kilometers, another gray-green Falcon helicopter joined the first one in the sky and followed behind the first one. This scene made Xia Pingan feel relieved. Let's go to the place where you found the last traces of the 2 escaped demon rats. Seeing that the helicopter was gradually flying out of the city, Xia Pingan, who was sitting in the helicopter, did not stand on ceremony. He directly entered the zone and said to the bald man called Old 2, also, show me the images of the 2 demon rats. I want to confirm what they look like. No problem, Old 2 said directly. Then, he said to the short-haired beauty, Lingshan, show him. The short-haired beauty didn't say anything. She operated the tactical computer in front of her with her fingers and turned the screen of the tactical computer to Xia Pingan. The first image that was shown on the computer screen was the one taken by the commando's helmet camera last night. The background of the video was green, which meant that it was shot in the dark. The commandos followed the bloodstains on the ground and entered a logistics park outside the city. They found the corpses of 2 workers who had been gnawed on the ground. As the video shook, a few of the commandos entered a warehouse and started to search inside. Found 2 victims' bodies. Team 7, enter the warehouse. Turn on the thermal imaging sensor. The target might be nearby. A few seconds later, the thermal imaging device found a moving heat source. The team quickly surrounded it, and then violent gunshots rang out. In the image, 2 demon rats suddenly appeared from behind a pile of wooden crates. Amidst the hail of bullets, the demon rats rushed over and pounced on 2 commandos. One of the demon rats used its sharp claws to tear open the throat of one of the commandos, and then it quickly fled. The second image was taken from the sky. The angle should be from the drone. At dawn, the two demon rats had already fled outside the city. They were running wildly in the bushes by the river outside the city. The drone only took 5 seconds to find them. One of the demon rats even stopped for a short while and looked up at the sky. Then, just before the drone's attack arrived, the two demon rats suddenly jumped into the river and dived into the water, disappearing. The third image was in the wilderness. The sky was already bright. The drone captured the two demon rats coming ashore by the river. Then, they entered a large swamp and reed field and disappeared. Okay. Xia Pingan nodded. He remembered the appearance of the two demon rats. Then, he stopped talking. Half an hour later, the two Falcon helicopters arrived at the last place where the two demon rats appeared, the swamp area over 160 kilometers away in the northwest of Xianghe City. This swamp area covered over 20 square miles. There were endless mountain ridges in the distance. This place was close to the National Park of Nani Province. Looking down from the helicopter, most of the swamp area was covered by trees, reeds, and weeds. The surrounding mountain ridges had a complex topography, crisscrossed river valleys, waterfalls, and dense black pine wood. It was very difficult to find the target. The helicopter hovered above the swamp area. The bald tough man looked at Xia Pingan and asked, "Can you find the trace of the two demon rats?" Xia Pingan closed his eyes and started to recall the look of the two demon rats. Only after a few seconds, a picture appeared in Xia Pingan's mind. The two demon rats were in an underground cave. They were motionless. Xia Pingan raised the image in his mind. He saw a large area of black pine woods outside the demon rat's cave, a hot geothermal spring not far away, 2 bare mountain tops, and a large grassland. The surrounding terrain gradually became clear. The two demon rats have already left this swamp and entered the mountain ridges. Xia Pingan opened his eyes and pointed at a direction. It's over 80 kilometers away from here. It's in a black pine woods. Can you mark it on the electronic map? The bald tough man asked. Yes. Xia Pingan nodded as he took the electronic map from the bald tough man. After glancing at it for a short while, he drew a circle on the electronic map. It's about here. The bald tough man patted the pilot of the helicopter in front and made a hand gesture. The two Falcon helicopters immediately flew towards the direction Xia Pingan pointed at. The drone can fly above the target area to monitor and search for the target. The short-haired beauty finally spoke as her fingers tapped on the keyboard. After a short while, Xia Pingan saw the drone's image on the computer screen in front of the short-haired beauty. The drone was rapidly approaching the area that he had marked on the electronic map. Before the helicopters arrived, the drone had already arrived. It was hovering above a large area of black pine woods and using its thermal imaging system to scan and identify the movements on the ground. The black pine woods covered an area of over 60 square kilometers. It stretched across a valley and a mountain slope. Animals such as elk, bison, and pronghorn antelope in the woods and valleys were constantly detected by the drone's thermal imaging system. However, the two demon rats were still nowhere to be seen. The two demon rats are very cunning. They dug a hole and hid underground. They won't be detected by the thermal imaging system, Xia Pingan said. The bald tough man licked his lips and looked at Xia Pingan. Can you be more precise about where the two demon rats are hiding? I'm sorry. Perhaps some people have the ability to accurately pinpoint their location. However, I don't have that ability yet. I can only determine the approximate area. Xia Pingan shook his head. Only 10 minutes later, the two Falcon helicopters flew to the edge of the Black Forest. The two helicopters lowered their ropes, and the commandos on the two helicopters quickly slid down from the ropes and began to carefully search the area. You don't have to follow us. Stay in the helicopter. If you find anything, you can contact us immediately. The bald tough man picked up his guillotine-like machete and said to Xia Pingan. Like a ferocious tiger, he pulled the rope and jumped down from the helicopter. The short-haired beauty also put away her tactical computer and stuffed it into the tactical backpack on the helicopter. She grabbed a shotgun beside her and jumped down from the helicopter after the bald, tough man. The two Falcon helicopters then shifted in the air and flew to a grassy area about 20 kilometers away before stopping. The Falcon helicopters could stay in the air for more than 6 hours at a time. As they weren't sure how long the pursuit team would need to search the Black Pine Woods, the helicopters could only wait by the side. They didn't want to waste their time in the air. As for the attack and surveillance missions in the sky, they were taken over by the drones that could stay in the air for longer. The helicopters stopped. Xia Pingan got down from the helicopter and peed in the nearby bushes. Looking at the beautiful scenery of the surrounding valley, Xia Pingan felt like he was in a fantasy again. Xia Pingan was in a daze for a moment. This place should be within the boundaries of Yellowstone National Park. He had come here in his previous life when he came to North America to investigate the mountain terrain recorded in the Classic of Mountains and Seas. The entrance fee was calculated by the vehicle and each vehicle was about $25. However, this was the 5A National Forest Park in the Fire Country's Izhou province. There was no entrance fee. Chapter 7. From morning to afternoon, there was no news from the hunting team that entered the Black Pine Forest. Feeling bored, Xia Pingan closed his eyes and waited quietly in the helicopter. Until evening, the communication device in the helicopter sounded again. Falcon 3, Falcon 4, we have injured members. We need to transport the injured immediately to pursue the prey. Please reply if you copy. Please reply if you copy. Falcon 3 Roger, Falcon 4 Roger. We will release a red smoke bomb at the location, Roger. In the blink of an eye, the two helicopters took off and flew towards the Black Pine Forest. Just as the helicopters flew over a mountain ridge, they saw a red smoke rising from the ground far away. The two helicopters quickly flew towards the direction of the red smoke. A few minutes later, the helicopters arrived at the place where the red smoke was rising and blew away the red smoke from the cigarette cans on the ground. On a patch of grass in the Black Pine Forest, there were 4 members of the hunting team lying on the ground. Some of them had their intestines flowing out, some of them had their necks and thighs badly mutilated. They seemed to have gone through a fierce battle with the demon rats. There were also a few members who had wounds on their bodies but could still move. The bald man and the short-haired beauty were not at the scene, but at the edge of the forest not far away, Xia Pingan saw a burnt demon rat corpse that was cut into several pieces. The group quickly carried the injured members onto one of the Falcon helicopters. The 7 members who were not injured got onto the helicopter that Xia Pingan was in. The 2 helicopters took off at the same time. The helicopter that carried the injured members flew towards Xianghe City, while the helicopter that Xia Pingan was in flew towards the valley far away. Xia Pingan closed his eyes again. A few seconds later, a picture appeared in Xia Pingan's consciousness. A demon rat was fleeing in the forest. There were 2 drones in the sky chasing after it. A blade missile launched by the drone was blocked by the dense tree trunk. After cutting off a few trees and a large number of branches, it deviated from its direction and heavily smashed onto the back of the demon rat. There was another drone that was shooting with a machine gun in the sky, causing the soil and wood shavings on the forest ground to fly everywhere. The demon rat that was being chased was covered in wounds, but it still had a terrifying speed and movement ability. It also knew how to use the trees and the environment to avoid being chased. More importantly, the wounds on the demon rat's body were automatically recovering while it was running. Xia Pingan even saw the bleeding wounds on the demon rat rapidly stop bleeding and close up. A few bullets that were shot into the demon rat's body were squeezed out of the demon rat's body and fell to the ground. 200 to 300 meters behind the demon rat, the bald man called Old Two was running in the forest at a speed of 100 meters with a huge saber in hand. The bald man's speed was so fast that he didn't look like a human. When there was a fallen tree in front of him, the bald man jumped over 2 meters high and directly flipped over the tree trunk. On the side of the bald man was the short-haired beauty. The short-haired beauty was not slower than the bald man. Instead, she was more agile. When encountering obstacles in the woods, she easily dodged them by rolling and twisting her body like an athlete doing gymnastics on a balance beam. To be honest, Xia Pingan had never seen a woman who could run so fast in the forest. Even those female athletes who had won the Olympic gold medal in hurdling were inferior to the short-haired beauty. The bald man and the woman were like two pairs of pliers that flanked the demon rat from both sides. The demon rat seemed to have nowhere to run. However, at this moment, a pitch-dark mountain cave appeared on the hillside in front of the forest. The demon rat instantly drilled into the mountain cave. The drone whizzed across the sky and lost the chance to continue shooting. By the time the bald man and the short-haired beauty arrived, there was no trace of the demon rat in the cave. There were many forks in the cave. When the two people reached the entrance of the cave and entered for a while, they found that there were too many forks in the cave. Therefore, they could not help but stop. It's 30 kilometers away from 3 o'clock. After passing through the valley in front of us, we will arrive there. Xia Pingan told the pilot of the helicopter. Several minutes later, the helicopter hovered on the ground near the mountain cave. Xia Pingan and the other members of the hunting squad got off the helicopter and came to the entrance of the mountain cave. At the sight of Xia Pingan, the bald man strode towards him with a solemn look. There are too many forks in the mountain cave. Can you sense which way the demon rat escaped? That demon rat is female. It's not an ordinary demon rat. It has a very strong recovery ability. It might evolve. Don't let it escape from the mountain cave. The surrounding became quiet as everyone was looking at Xia Pingan. Xia Pingan originally wanted to say no. However, looking at the surrounding faces and thinking about the injured members who were taken away by the helicopter, he finally nodded and decided to take the risk. That demon rat has just slipped into the mountain cave. As long as I enter the mountain cave and follow it, I will be able to lock its trace. The bald man glanced at the members' faces before giving an order. Xueqing, give your tactical helmet, tactical bulletproof vest and weapon to Xia Pingan and teach him how to use them. Zhao Yang and Lin Feng, prepare climbing tools and ropes and enter the mountain cave with us. The two of you will be responsible for protecting Xia Pingan. The rest of you will be stationed at the entrance of the mountain cave and set remote sensing landmines. Don't let that demon rat escape from the entrance of the mountain cave again. Yes, sir. Everyone immediately got busy. The pursuer named Xueqing directly took off his tactical helmet and tactical bulletproof vest and put them on Xia Pingan. At the same time, he taught Xia Pingan how to use them. The tactical helmet was equipped with night vision, communication and body detection functions. It was very convenient to use. Xia Pingan immediately knew how to use it. As for weapons, the pursuers all used assault rifles. All high schools in the Fire Country had a course on how to use weapons. Every high school student in the Fire Country would master the basic skills of using rifles, pistols and assault rifles. Xia Pingan also knew how to use them. 2 minutes later, Xia Pingan, who was wearing a helmet, a tactical vest and holding an assault rifle, walked into the cave with a few others. After the 5 people entered the mountain cave, the team members who stayed outside immediately set remote sensing landmines outside the mountain cave. After entering the mountain cave for less than 50 meters, it was completely dark inside. Only a faint light came from the entrance of the mountain cave. Xia Pingan could only use the night vision device on the tactical helmet to see the environment inside the mountain cave. The entire mountain cave was covered in a faint green light. Xia Pingan was the second last in the team, so he received the best protection. At the front of the team was the bald man with a huge saber. The short-haired beauty was the second. In front of Xia Pingan was the Special Forces member named Zhao Yang. Behind Xia Pingan was the Special Forces member named Lin Feng. Xia Pingan realized that the bald man and the short-haired beauty didn't need night vision equipment to see the cave's environment clearly in this pitch-black cave. In front, the second mountain cave on the left. Xia Pingan sensed the situation inside the mountain cave and said, not long after the demon rat entered the mountain cave, Xia Pingan kept a close watch on it with his remote viewing ability. He still remembered the path and could chase after it. In front, turn left. There's a cave on the top. There's a crack in the rock wall on the left. We can climb in through the crack. We need to climb down this 5m high rock with a rope. Xia Pingan guided the way inside the mountain cave. At the beginning, the path inside the mountain cave was easy to walk on. However, it became more and more difficult to walk on. Gradually, water and a brook appeared in the mountain cave. They waded in the brook and continued to move forward. Xia Pingan's clothes were all wet in a short while. Fortunately, the demon rat was huge. If it could reach a place where it could burrow in, Xia Pingan and the others could also burrow in. After over 40 minutes, Xia Pingan suddenly stopped as he closed his eyes. The whole team stopped. Xia Pingan pointed at a pitch-black cave which was as high as half a person over 20m away. He then nodded forcefully and pointed at 3 o'clock on the right side of the cave. Everybody understood that the demon rat was hiding in the cave in front of them at 3 o'clock on the right side of the cave. The bald man made some hand gestures to the two members of the Special Forces who were protecting Xia Pingan and the short-haired beauty. Lin Feng immediately retreated with Xia Pingan and had Xia Pingan hide behind a huge rock. After that, he turned around. Zhao Yang took off 2 flashbangs and walked to the cave in front of them before raising 3 fingers. 3, 2, 1. The 2 flashbangs were thrown into the right side of the cave at the same time. Everybody outside the cave turned around at the same time. Bang! A muffled sound drifted from the mountain cave while the dazzling white light made the entire mountain cave pale. The moment the white light disappeared, the bald man lowered his body and with a roll, he was the first to rush into the cave. The short-haired beauty was the second to rush in. Closely after that, the whistling sound of the machete and the roar of the bald man drifted from the mountain cave. *****, go to hell. Then, the sound of gunfire was heard. A crimson flame lit up the cave, illuminating it like a cave that had been lit on fire. Closely after that, the shrill shriek of the demon rat reverberated in the mountain cave. 2 minutes later, all the movements in the cave stopped. The bald man with a few bloody wounds on his left shoulder came out of the cave with a big saber in his hand, as if nothing had happened. The short-haired beauty followed closely behind him. There are some bats and cave creatures in the mountain caves along the way. Zhao Yang, Lin Feng, you two guard here. Don't let other animals enter the mountain cave. I will inform the 4th Bureau to come here as soon as possible to carry out quarantine and purification. Yes, sir. The 2 members immediately stood at the entrance of the mountain cave and looked around vigilantly. The bald man then looked at Xia Pingan as he walked towards him and patted Xia Pingan's shoulder. At the same time, he grinned and revealed a mouth full of terrifying steel teeth. Looking at his mouth full of shiny steel teeth, the bald man smiled like a hungry ghost, which could definitely scare children to tears. Kid, you did well today. You have some guts. I guess the director won't let someone like you slip away again. It's not easy to find clairvoyant. Follow me in the future. I, Old 2, will protect you. Chapter 8. At around 9 p.m., a black off-road vehicle drove over from afar and stopped at the roadside in front of Xia Pingan's residential area. The street lamps were like ghostly flames as they shone on the slightly old street and the parasol trees on the roadside. Under the street lamps, the parasol trees' shade was threatening as if a monster was about to jump out from the ground. Usually, at this time, there would be many pedestrians and peddlers on the roadside outside the community. However, today it was exceptionally quiet outside the community. Although everyone in the city had received the notification that the 4 escaped demon rats had been killed an hour ago, the aftermath of the space invasion yesterday had not completely passed yet. Many residents were worried that there might be some fish that escaped the net or criminals who would take advantage of the situation to rob them. Therefore, the streets of the city were extremely quiet tonight. There were indeed cases of fish escaping the net. Because the monitoring statistics of space invasion creatures were sometimes difficult to be 100% accurate, and in some small-scale space invasions, such as G-class and below, it was possible to escape the monitoring of the satellite network. In the space invasion, the city's public security was indeed a problem. A sad atmosphere quietly pervaded the dark night of the city. However, there was also a trace of fear in this sadness. In the car, Xia Pingan unfastened his seatbelt. Mo Yanshao handed a thick file bag to Xia Pingan. "This is the 40,000 yuan reward that he promised you. Old Tu rarely praises others. Since he approved of you, it means that you've done a great job." Xia Pingan pinched the thick file bag and knew that there was not a cent less than the 40,000 yuan inside. "Do I still need to return this set of clothes?" Xia Pingan's clothes were completely wet. Therefore, when he came out of the cave and returned to a special hospital in the city for an anti-epidemic hygiene test and immunization medication, Mo Yanshao prepared a new set of sportswear and shoes for him. They were all famous brands and the size was exactly the same as the one he was wearing. After changing into a new set of clothes, Xia Pingan looked a lot more spirited. Mo Yanshao narrowed his eyes and looked at Xia Pingan. "You can keep this suit as an extra reward." "Oh right, I am now officially informing you in the name of the National Committee of Order. Since the Committee of Order has discovered your awakened ability, please report to the National Committee of Order in Xianghe City at 9 a.m. next Monday." Xia Pingan nodded numbly. He then opened the door and prepared to get out of the car. But before he got out, he asked curiously, "Is that bald man really a summoner? Why is he carrying a large saber on his back? I don't see him using his ability." "Of course Old Tu is a summoner. It's just that he's been on 2 missions this month, so he's used up most of his divine power points and divine power replenishing pills. That's why he can only use weapons to fight," Mo Yanshao replied. "Oh, I see." Xia Pingan finally got out of the car. He slammed the door shut and walked towards the residential area. Mo Yanshao watched as Xia Pingan walked into the residential area. He smiled lightly and said to himself, "Don't worry, we'll meet again soon." Mo Yanshao picked up the phone beside him and dialed a number. A lazy male voice came from the other side of the phone. "Boss, what's the matter?" "I want all the information related to Xia Pingan. The more detailed, the better." "Xia Pingan, is he the clairvoyant that Old Tu mentioned today?" "Yes. Boss, he's just a normal awakened. Is he worth my time?" "I'm worth hundreds of thousands per second, cut the crap. I'll give you 1 day." After saying this, Mo Yanshao hung up the phone. The black off-road vehicle's headlights turned around in the dark. It drew 2 red lights and disappeared on the road outside. Xia Pingan looked back and then walked towards his place. 40,000 yuan was not a small amount for him. He would have to work at the repair shop for at least 3 months. Today, he had earned that much in just 1 day. A powerful organization like the National Committee of Order was indeed rich. Although money was good, his hidden remote viewing ability had been exposed today. Yesterday, he could not help but look at it from afar. That thought had caused a chain reaction that quickly fermented in his life. He did not know whether it was a blessing or a curse. Xia Pingan thought to himself. Moreover, if he reported it himself, the Committee of Order would definitely investigate his past. He did not know if they would find anything. This was life. No one knew which would come first, tomorrow or an accident. The 40,000 yuan in the bag in his hand was heavy. It was just like Xia Pingan's mood at the moment. Although he had earned a sum of money, Xia Pingan did not feel relaxed. Instead, he felt a little heavy. Xia Pingan walked downstairs to his building. He entered the password and unlocked the door of the building's lobby. Seeing Xia Pingan come in, the security guard who was watching TV in the reception room next to the lobby popped his head out of the window and asked curiously, "Xia Pingan, what's going on today? A helicopter flew to our neighborhood?" Xia Pingan smiled. "It's nothing. When I was on my way back, I accidentally passed by an undisinfected health and epidemic prevention area that hadn't been sealed off yet. Later, I was discovered by someone from the surveillance camera, so they chased me all the way to the neighborhood. I was taken to the hospital for a day of observation by the people sent by the order committee. Uncle Wu, look, they even changed my clothes for me," Xia Pingan said as he opened his arms to show off the new clothes he was wearing. "Are you okay?" "Of course I'm okay. If something happened to me, they wouldn't let me come back." That's good, the security guard muttered. He retracted his head and began to watch TV. He no longer cared about these things. Xia Pingan walked up the stairs step by step. He was thinking that the news of a helicopter coming to pick him up today would probably spread throughout the community. His explanation should be able to make the uncles and aunties in the community stop making wild guesses, but he was afraid that he wouldn't be able to deceive everyone. It would depend on the situation. If it did not work, he could just move to a place closer to Xianing's school. Xia Pingan came to the door. When he was about to take out the key, the house's security door was suddenly opened. "Brother, you're back." Xianing's smiling face appeared in front of Xia Pingan. Xianing, who was already a sophomore, looked beautiful. She wore ordinary sportswear and had a youthful and energetic ponytail. She had a slightly round face and a sharp chin. When she smiled, her eyes were like two curved crescent moons, revealing a sense of intelligence. Xia Pingan smiled and touched Xianing's head, then walked into the house. "Brother, you even changed into a new set of clothes and new shoes. Your clothes and shoes are branded. They cost more than 2,000. Where did you go?" As soon as the two entered the house, Xianing's eyes were very sharp. She immediately noticed that Xia Pingan's clothes were different from usual. It could be said that it was somewhat extravagant. Usually, Xia Pingan's clothes rarely cost more than 200 yuan. Xia Pingan was never willing to buy branded clothes. "I'll tell you later." Xia Pingan casually threw the file bag with money on the sofa. "Okay, then let's eat first." Seeing that Xia Pingan had returned, Xianing ran into the kitchen and busied herself. She brought out the bowls, chopsticks, and dishes in the steamer from the kitchen. Seeing that Xianing took out 2 sets of bowls and chopsticks, Xia Pingan shook his head. "Didn't I tell you not to wait for me to come back to eat? Why did you wait until now?" "I'm happy. I'm not hungry anyway." Xianing wrinkled her nose at Xia Pingan and made a face. Then she began to add rice to Xia Pingan's bowl. When she was adding rice, Xianing's stomach growled. "What's growling?" Xia Pingan asked. "I'm not hungry, but the toad in my stomach is hungry," Xianing answered. The two siblings laughed and began to eat. The simple house was filled with a warm atmosphere. Xianing made scrambled tomatoes with eggs, stir-fried pork with bamboo shoots, and seaweed soup. A few simple dishes were placed on the table. There were red, white, blue, and green dishes. They were like her palette, pleasing to the eye. Since junior high school, Xianing had been able to cook. Now, Xianing's dishes were quite tasty. After the meal, Xia Pingan sat on the sofa and habitually made some tea for himself. Drinking the tea, he called Xianing over and handed the file bag to Xianing. "Go and save it tomorrow." Xianing was stunned for a moment. Xia Pingan sat on the sofa and habitually made himself some tea. Xia Ning opened the file bag and saw 4 stacks of brand new 100 yuan bills. His little face was full of shock and his eyes widened. 40,000 yuan, brother, where did you get so much money? The repair shop gave out bonuses, but it's not the end of the year yet. Your boss is very stingy, he wouldn't be so generous. Xia Pingan smiled. Of course, I earned it today. Xia Ning looked at Xia Pingan and then looked at Xia Pingan's new clothes and shoes. His expression suddenly became complicated and he sighed softly. His little brows wrinkled and his face was full of worry. Brother, I know that boys at your age are very depressed and restless. You don't have a girlfriend. Even if our family is short of money, you don't have to do this. Last time, that auntie was very rich. She liked little fresh meat like you, but that auntie was too old. How could you sell yourself for money? I've actually been looking for a girlfriend for you in our school. There are a few seniors in our class who are very good. Their skin is white and beautiful, and they have long legs. Last time, I introduced you to our school to be a nude model, but you didn't want to. If you want to go, with your figure, it'll be too easy to find a girlfriend if you strip naked in the classroom. Cough cough. Xia Pingan, who had just taken a sip of water, almost choked. He glared at Xia Ning and couldn't help but flick Xia Ning's head. What nonsense are you thinking in that little head of yours? Xia Ning, this scammer, actually wanted to introduce Xia Pingan to her school to be a nude model in the name of wealth and beauty. Xia Ning rubbed his head and pouted. He looked at Xia Pingan unhappily. Am I wrong, brother? Actually, you don't have to be embarrassed. I know that some of you guys like those rich and mature auntie. Xia Pingan looked at the ceiling speechlessly. His sister was good at everything, but, how should he put it? She seemed to be a little too mature. She was still young, but she knew everything and worried about everything. In order to prevent Xia Ning's imagination from running wild, Xia Pingan finally told the truth. This money is a bonus from the Committee of Order. Xia Ning was stunned. Then, he suddenly thought of something and his face changed slightly. Ah, brother, they know about your remote viewing ability? Only Xia Ning knew about Xia Pingan's remote viewing ability. The two siblings had relied on each other for so many years. This ability couldn't be hidden from Xia Ning. A few years ago, during a holiday, Xia Ning was taking a nap at home. He forgot to turn off the electric stove in the kitchen and almost caused a fire. Xia Pingan hurriedly called Xia Ning to wake her up. He asked her to turn off the electric switch in the kitchen and put an end to the fire. In the end, only a socket was burned. As for the two siblings taking a detour to avoid danger, Xia Ning being harassed by hooligans after school, Xia Pingan rushing over in time and so on, it wasn't the first time. In this case, unless Xia Ning was an idiot, Xia Pingan's remote viewing ability couldn't be hidden. When Xia Ning asked, Xia Pingan could only tell Xia Ning how Mo Yanxiao found out about his remote viewing ability and how he chased the demon rats during the mission today. Brother, is the cold short-haired beauty you mentioned beautiful? Did she say anything to you? After hearing Xia Pingan's words, Xia Ning's first question was actually this. Xia Pingan really couldn't understand women's thoughts. He directly retreated. Okay, that woman is beautiful, but it has nothing to do with me. When you talked about that woman, you've already used the term short-haired beauty 5 times. You only used the term bald man 4 times. It means that she left a deep impression on you. Xia Ning said seriously as he stared at Xia Pingan while supporting his chin with his hand. If she becomes my sister-in-law, of course she has something to do with me. Xia Pingan touched his forehead. Don't you care about something else? Your brother risked his life to chase the demon rats today. Xia Ning directly rolled his eyes at Xia Pingan. Humph, if it was really dangerous, you wouldn't have gone there. You would have just watched from afar. Do you think I don't know how cunning you are? Xia Pingan, by the way, brother, are you really going to report to the Committee of Order next Monday? Xia Ning revealed a worried and curious look. I have no choice this time. I have to go there. Additionally, it's very likely that I will be conscripted. Brother, actually, I think you should have gone there earlier. Xiaoning said seriously. That repairman job doesn't match you at all. You're surrounded by a bunch of men. You can't even find a girlfriend. Aren't you worried that your brother will be conscripted by the Committee of Order to do those dangerous jobs? I believe that you'll be fine. I always feel that even if the world is destroyed, you'll still be able to help me survive. Additionally, in the Committee of Order, you'll have a chance to find me a sister-in-law. By the way, keep 3,000 yuan for this month's rent and 2,000 yuan for next month's living expenses. Xia Ning then divided the money into two parts. We'll save the remaining 35,000 yuan tomorrow and use it to buy you a house and get married. Take out another 10,000 yuan and save 25,000 yuan. With this 10,000 yuan, you can find a good teacher to enroll in a training class during the holidays and get special treatment. Xia Ning hesitated for a moment. After struggling for a while, he finally said, I'm going to work during the holidays. I've already made plans with my classmates. Xia Pingan glared at Xia Ning. He then took out a stack of 10,000 yuan from Xia Ning's two piles of money and placed it beside the 5,000 yuan pile. Your brother is still alive. Do you think it's your turn to work to earn money? If you want to earn money, wait until you become an artist. When one of your paintings can be sold for hundreds of thousands, I won't have to work anymore. By then, it'll be your turn to take care of me. I don't need 10,000, 5,000 yuan to enroll in an art class. Xia Ning retorted. You don't want to eat, drink, buy clothes, go shopping, or go to the National Gallery with your friends during the holidays? You can keep the remaining 5,000 for yourself. You can buy whatever you want. That's settled. Keep the money well and don't talk nonsense. After finishing his words, Xia Pingan turned around and went up to the attic. Xia Ning looked at the money on the table and then at Xia Pingan's tired back. He sniffled and sucked back the tears that were about to fall. He muttered softly, Stinky brother, you only know how to scold me. Chapter 9. The next day, the two siblings woke up early. The sky was still dark, and they got up at around 5 o'clock. Children from poor families didn't have the habit of sleeping in. The two of them made breakfast together. After eating, Xia Ning put her drawing board and paint paper into a backpack and carried it well. Xia Pingan also carried a thick backpack. In the backpack, there were oilcloths, balloons, inflators and other things that he used to set up a stall. Then the two siblings put away 25,000 yuan in cash, put the remaining 15,000 yuan at home, and went out. After leaving the neighborhood, the two of them first went to a bank's automated business hall near the police station and deposited 25,000 yuan in the ATM machine. Then, they went to a nearby bus station together. After waiting for a while, they got on a bus and headed out of the city. Today was the weekend. Every weekend, in the empty space near the General Temple in the southern suburbs of Xianghe City, the citizens spontaneously organized a temple fair. In such a fair, many businesses would move all kinds of snacks and entertainment facilities there. The citizens there could also sell some of their own things, such as old records, old furniture, all kinds of second-hand goods, and some handmade products. The temple fair in the General Temple was a lively place. It was brought by the Chinese immigrants who came to the Fire Country. It was said that it had a tradition of hundreds of years. At around 8 o'clock, the sun had already come out. The two siblings took two buses and finally arrived at the empty space near the General Temple. Many people had already arrived. Many people who came here drove private cars and pickup trucks. They found a place to park their cars and pickup trucks. Once they opened the rear of their cars, they could sell things. Xia Pingan and Xia Ning found a 5 to 6 square meter empty space and began to set up their stall. Xia Ning took out her drawing board, stand, die, and paper. She hung up two portraits that she had already drawn and waited for people to come and draw. One of Xia Ning's paintings was 30 yuan. It wasn't expensive, and her paintings were very good. Many people who saw such a beautiful and talented girl selling her paintings couldn't help but come and draw one. Xia Pingan took out a tarpaulin and a folding stand from her backpack. Then she put on a wig and a smiling clown mask. She took out a pile of long balloons and inflators and began to inflate the balloons. The inflated balloons turned into long cucumber-like strips in Xia Pingan's hands. Then Xia Pingan used the inflated balloons and twisted them into small toys like dogs, flowers, swords, and so on. She sold them for 2 yuan each. There were many children who came here. As long as one child bought one, the other children would see it and want it. Xia Pingan had been in this business for a few years. This business required little investment, quick results, and there was no need to worry about losing money. It didn't have high technical requirements, and it wasn't eye-catching. One only needed to buy some balloons, inflators, a folding table, and a tarpaulin to start the business. The clown mask and wig were used to attract children. The cost of a few hundred yuan was enough. The business was small but quick, and it wasn't eye-catching. If it was done well, one could earn up to 300 to 400 yuan a day. Even if it was a small amount, it would still be 100 to 200 yuan. The main reason was that there were 2 other balloon twisting stalls competing with Xia Pingan, so they didn't earn much. Brother, let's save money and buy a pickup truck. In the future, when you drive here, we can go wherever we want. In addition to setting up a stall, we can also travel. Xia Ning looked at the pickup truck beside her, which was very convenient to sell things. She couldn't help but say with envy. The Great Fire Country, which occupied the entire North Guang continent, was vast but sparsely populated. Pickup trucks, which were used for agricultural and commercial purposes and could carry people, were especially popular among ordinary families. At this moment, more than 70% of the people at the temple fair drove pickup truck. Okay, when are you going to get a driver's license? When you're done, we can buy a second-hand truck and drive it together. Hearing Xia Pingan's words, Xia Ning suddenly became happy and was full of enthusiasm. Then let's set up a second family fund now. It'll be called the Second-Hand Pickup Truck Fund. Oh right, how much does a second-hand pickup truck cost? Generally, it's 20 to 30,000 yuan. Those in slightly better condition will cost about 70 to 80,000 yuan. Then our goal for the second-hand pickup truck fund is to save up 70,000 yuan first. Come on. Xia Ning began to encourage himself. Xia Pingan had just wrung out 2 puppies and immediately opened for business. A little boy came here and dragged his mother to Xia Pingan's stall to buy a purple balloon puppy. When Xia Pingan sold 5 balloons, Xia Ning also welcomed her first customer. It was a 7 or 8-year-old girl in a dress. When she came here, she was attracted by Xia Ning's portrait and couldn't help asking Xia Ning to draw one for her. Today, the number of people who came to the temple fair was much less than usual, and the business was not good. It seemed that the effects of the space invasion had not completely passed. Xia Pingan sold 106 balloons on the first day. He set up a stall here, and the turnover was 212 yuan. Xia Ning drew 6 portraits for others and made a profit of 180 yuan. The 2 siblings ate 2 bowls of rice noodles, 2 spring rolls, 2 bottles of soda, and a fruit platter. Xia Ning also went to play the Trojan horse, roller coaster, and shooting games, which cost 86 yuan. In the evening, the 2 packed up and went home. After a busy day, they made 306 yuan. Xia Ning was very happy. Since she was in junior high school, Xia Pingan often took her here on weekends. Every time she came here, it was a very happy thing for her. She could play, draw, and eat delicious food. The next day, the 2 rested at home, watched TV, cleaned, hung up clothes, made delicious food, read, and stared blankly. Xia Pingan called the owner of the repair shop in the morning and told him that he resigned. He couldn't work anymore and was ready to change to an easier job. Pingon, you're still young. I won't stop you from going out. Young people all want to go out and see the world. It's normal. You're very talented in the repair business. If you still want to repair cars, you can come back to me. I'll give you an extra 2,000 yuan every month. You can go to other repair shops and your salary won't be higher than this. The owner of the repair shop tried to persuade Xia Pingon to stay on the phone. He was very sorry for Xia Pingon's departure because in the whole repair shop, it was very difficult to find a young man who was as good at repair as Xia Pingon. Xia Pingon politely declined. He was going to report to the Committee of Order tomorrow. He didn't know what was waiting for him there, but with his remote vision, it was unlikely that they would let him out. While Xia Pingon was on the phone with the owner of the repair shop, at the Xianghe National Committee of Orders encampment, a man in his 30s with thick glasses, a stubble of beard, slippers, and a flamboyant flowery shirt walked through the long corridor with his hands in his pockets and whistled. He walked to Mo Yinshao's office. The door to Mo Yinshao's office opened. The short-haired beauty and the bald man who went on a mission with Xia Pingon walked out of the office together. Seeing the short-haired beauty, the man in the flowery shirt's eyes lit up and his saliva almost flowed out. After swallowing a mouthful of saliva, he immediately went up to her. Shanshan, are you going on a mission again? Do you have time tonight? Come to my place to listen to hi-fi. I just bought a set of speakers over 4 million yuan. The effect is great. My house is big and comfortable. The short-haired beauty didn't even bat an eyelid. She just glanced at the man in the flowery shirt and coldly spat out a sentence. Get lost. The flamboyant man looked annoyed, but he didn't back down. Sigh, if I had known, I would have been more direct and asked if you were willing to roll in the sheets with me. Before the black boots kicked his butt, the flamboyant man laughed strangely. His body was as agile as a monkey as he jumped forward and directly avoided the short-haired beauty's kick. He pushed open the door to Mo Yinshao's office and rushed in. Mo Yinshao was behind his desk and had just put away a document. Boss, I've prepared the information you wanted on Xia Pingon. The flamboyant man stopped smiling and suddenly became serious. He took out a black USB flash drive from his pocket and handed it over. That guy is not simple. He's very interesting, not simple? Very interesting? Mo Yinshao raised his eyes in surprise. He first looked at the black USB flash drive and hesitated. He wondered if he should take the USB flash drive. The USB flash drive seemed to be stained with some unknown substance and looked dirty. In the end, Mo Yinshao's misophobia won over his curiosity. After hesitating for a few seconds, Mo Yinshao didn't take the USB flash drive. Instead, he directly said, "Go on, I'm listening." After his parents passed away, he rejected the adoption family arranged by the government's social work department for him and his sister. He dropped out of school and went to work to support his sister's education. I know that. Mo Yinshao nodded. There are a few other things that you definitely don't know. His first business was selling balloons near his school. After selling balloons for a period of time, because this income wasn't stable, he went to a garage and became a car mechanic when he was 16 years old. At 16 years old, it's not considered child labor. Is there a problem? Mo Yinshao asked. That's the interesting part. According to the information I collected, before he became a car mechanic, he had never repaired cars. He only had a junior high school education and had never received any training related to car mechanic. However, after he went to the garage, guess what? In less than 2 months, he became the main mechanic of the garage. He could already repair all kinds of cars and solve all kinds of problems. Generally, a young person who has never been in contact with car mechanics would need at least 3 years of training to become a skilled mechanic. The explanation he gave to the garage was that he learned it at home. Mo Yinshao's eyes lit up and squinted slightly. What else? Go on, and his parents. The flamboyant man licked his lips. His parents were victims of a major traffic accident in Xianghe City 5 years ago. Oh. Mo Yinshao's eyebrows twitched. The major traffic accident in Xianghe City caused 11 deaths and dozens of injuries. It was the news that caused a sensation in Xianghe City. A sports car ran wildly in the city center at 150 kilometers per hour, then crashed into the crowd on the sidewalk waiting for the traffic light, crushing a bloody path. Mo Yanshao still remembered this incident. The Committee of Order was the first to take over the investigation of the 819 incident. Later, it was found that this was a major traffic accident and had nothing to do with space invasions or supernatural abilities. The Committee of Order didn't pay any more attention to it and transferred the case to other departments to handle according to procedures. It's been 5 years since the 819 incident. If you didn't ask me to check on Xia Pingan, I would have forgotten about it. Then, my hands got itchy and I curiously checked on the people involved in the 819 incident. Guess what I found, boss? The flamboyant man still wanted to keep Mo Yanshao in suspense, but when he saw that Mo Yanshao was glaring at him with an unfriendly gaze, he laughed dryly and went on directly. The young master of the Deshang group, Zhao Yuan, died in Germany 4 years ago. Zhao Yuan's body was found in his villa. The report and autopsy results in Germany showed that Zhao Yuan had been taking drugs for a long time and died of a drug overdose, ruling out homicide. Zhao Yuan's father, the president of the Deshang group, Zhao Jincheng, suddenly had a myocardial infarction 3 months after his son's death and died as well. Judging from the cause of their deaths, there shouldn't be any problems, right? Mo Yinshao's fingers tapped on the table gently. Looking at the cause of death of these 2 people alone, there is indeed no problem. However, the doctor who did the psychiatric evaluation on Zhao Yuan and helped him escape legal sanctions was accidentally electrocuted while lying in the bathtub at home 4 months after Zhao Yuan's death. The presiding judge of the 819 case lost control of his car on the highway while driving 7 months after Zhao Yuan's death and fell off a cliff. The chief prosecutor of the 819 case was found cheating by the woman's husband 9 months after Zhao Yuan's death and was stabbed to death. If these are all coincidences, the probability is less than 1 in 10 million. Mo Yinshao's expression gradually became serious. What else? The most coincidental thing is that Xia Pingan's only record of leaving the country was a week before Zhao Yuan's death. He used a tourist visa and bought a plane ticket to France. I can't find any information about him in France. He didn't take a plane, didn't use a mobile phone, didn't use a credit card, and only left a hotel record in Strasbourg, France. I remember that Strasbourg is very close to Germany. It's near the border. Mo Yanshao said with a frown. Yes, it's only an hour's drive from Strasbourg to Offenburg in Germany. It's very convenient to travel between the 2 countries. Mannheim, where Zhao Yuan died, is not far from Offenburg. It's only a few hours' drive. On the 4th day after Zhao Yuan's death, he came back from France. The flirtatious man smacked his lips, seeming to be unsatisfied. Damn, at that time, Xia Pingan was only 17 years old. It's really hard to imagine. Don't talk nonsense without evidence and don't hint at me. I'll judge for myself. Mo Yanshao said with a serious face. Of course, I didn't say anything. I'm just stating some facts. They're all a bunch of scumbags. So what if they're dead? It's none of my business. The flirtatious man shrugged and said indifferently. Anything else? On the 2nd day after the death of the chief prosecutor of the 819 case, Xia Pingan took his sister to visit his parents' grave. You'd never expect it. Half a month after this visit, Xia Pingan went to Qianlong Temple alone and stayed there for 3 days. After Xia Pingan left the temple, Master Yun Gu of Qianlong Temple announced that he would no longer tattoo people with needles. Is Master Yun Gu's decision to seal off the needles also related to Xia Pingan? Mo Yanxiao was really surprised. Mo Yanxiao knew Master Yun Gu. The fire lion tattoo on Mo Yanxiao's body was made by Master Yun Gu. In the entire Izhou province, Master Yun Gu was the #1 tattoo artist. This is my analysis and speculation based on the data and information. Xia Pingan's mobile phone location data didn't move for 3 days at Qianlong Temple. This was the time when Master Yun Gu completed a tattoo. When Xia Pingan left Qianlong Temple said that Master Yun Gu was in seclusion. Since then, those who came to Qianlong Temple to ask for a tattoo were received by Master Yun Gu's disciples. When Old Tu went to Qianlong Temple to ask for a tattoo, he didn't see Master Yun Gu. It was Master Yun Gu's disciples who did it. Master Yun Gu actually sealed off the needles after Xia Pingan left the temple. It's just that we don't know the reason. The possibility of the two being related is very high. Okay, I got it. This matter ends here. You didn't come to my place today. After a short silence, Mo Yanxiao silently picked up the USB flash drive. In the blink of an eye, the USB flash drive in his hand turned into a light smoke and melted into a ball. The flamboyant man's eyelids twitched as he patted his head with a blank look. Boss, why did you call me here? Look at my memory, I forgot again. Yeah, you're sleepwalking again. Go back and have a good rest. Mo Yanxiao smiled. It seems that I have to go back and make up for my drowsiness. Those evil spirits in my dreams are really harmful. The flamboyant man yawned as he turned around and left. When he reached the door, he seemed to have thought of something as he patted his head and turned around. Boss, there's one more thing. Zhao Jincheng has a son, Zhao Yuan, and a younger brother called Zhao Jian. Zhao Jian has always been studying in a noble school in France. I heard that he became a summoner 2 years ago. Mo Yanxiao raised his eyebrows. Got it. Chapter 10. 2 hours later, Mo Yanxiao stood at the entrance of the Qianlong Temple and looked up at the ancient temple in front of him. The Qianlong Temple was antique, with 2 rows of pines and cypresses planted at the entrance. Standing at the entrance of the Qianlong Temple, one could see the snow-capped Qianlong mountain range behind him. Against the backdrop of the Qianlong mountain range, the Qianlong Temple looked even more magnificent. Today was the weekend, and there were a lot more pilgrims coming to the Qianlong Temple than usual. Many people came to offer incense, and many people came to ask for tattoos. The best tattoo master in Xianghe City was not in the tattoo shops in the city, but in the Qianlong Temple. Legend had it that tattoos in the temple could eliminate disasters and be blessed by the gods and Buddhas. The tattoo masters in the temple did not charge money for tattoos, but not everyone could get tattoos. Before getting a tattoo, the masters in the temple would look at the person. If the person was not right, the masters in the temple would not help you get a tattoo, no matter how much money you gave them. For example, those gangsters who shouted all day long could only go to the tattoo shops to get tattoos. If they came to the Qianlong Temple, no matter how they dressed up, the tattoo masters in the Qianlong Temple would not give them a tattoo at first glance. Also, those who committed crimes and had evil intentions would find it difficult to get a tattoo here. Getting a tattoo in the Qianlong Temple was the best way to pray for blessings and to prove that one was on the right path. Tattoos were a summoner's tradition. Every summoner had their own unique tattoos. The summoner's tattoos weren't for the sake of looking good, nor were they for the sake of acting cool. Instead, they were for the sake of allowing others to identify their corpse after their head exploded after failing to fuse with the realm pearl. This tradition had been passed down among the summoners for thousands of years, and it had been passed down among the summoners. Mo Yanxiao's tattoo was tattooed by Master Yun Gu in the Qianlong Temple. Even when Master Yun Gu was still tattooing people, those who could make Master Yun Gu do it were not ordinary people. Mo Yanxiao walked into the temple. There was a reception monk in the temple. Mo Yanshao explained the purpose of his visit to the reception monk. The reception monk quickly led Mo Yanshao to the hut behind the Thousand Dragon Temple. They arrived at the small courtyard where Master Yungu lived. Master Yungu was already over 100 years old. He had white eyebrows and a white beard, but his complexion was still rosy. He was currently meditating under a ginkgo tree in the courtyard, motionless. Only when Mo Yanshao arrived in front of him did Master Yungu open his eyes, revealing a pair of eyes that were as tranquil as a lake. He smiled faintly. "Benefactor Mo, you're here." "Greetings, great Master Yungu. Today, I have something to ask of you," Mo Yanshao said directly. Master Yungu spread his legs and stood up straight. Then, he led Mo Yanshao to his room. "Today, when I was meditating, my heart was surging with emotions and the past surfaced in my mind. I already know the purpose of your visit. Benefactor, please follow me." When they arrived at the room, the two of them sat down on the same bed. Master Yungu poured a cup of tea for Mo Yanshao. After Mo Yanshao drank the tea, Master Yungu spoke again. 4 years ago, a young man named Xia Pingan came to the temple to look for me. He asked me to tattoo a tattoo for him, so I did. Mo Yanshao asked curiously. Usually, when people come to the temple to get a tattoo, Great Master's disciples and disciples would be able to do it. I wonder why Great Master would personally tattoo a tattoo for that young man back then. Furthermore, you sealed the needles after you tattoo him? Because that young man had drawn a painting in the temple and wanted to tattoo that painting on his back. When my disciples saw that painting, none of them dared to touch the needles. Thus, they could only invite me over. After I tattooed that painting, my mind and technique had been completely perfected. Therefore, I sealed the needles. Master Yungu spoke gently, making one feel as if they were being bathed in the spring breeze. I wonder what painting it was that even Great Master's disciples didn't dare to touch it. Mo Yanshao was already filled with curiosity. "It's this one." Venerable Master Yungu tugged on the rope beside him, and a yellow curtain that had been hung on the wall earlier opened, revealing a portrait behind the curtain. "This portrait is too imposing, so this poor monk has placed it behind the curtain to prevent it from scaring other people who don't know the truth." Mo Yanshao looked at the painting. With just one glance, he felt as if his eyes were being burned. When he looked at it again, Mo Yanshao felt as if his heart and soul were shaken. When he looked at it again, Mo Yanshao's face turned slightly pale. On the painting was the image of a furious demon god that Mo Yanshao had never seen in any temple or religious classics. The demon god's body was greenish-black. There were 7 buns on top of his head. The braided hair hung down to his left shoulder. His left eye was closed and his lower teeth were biting on his upper lip. He looked furious. Circles, balls, and flames spewed out from the demon god's back and filled the void. The flames on the demon god's back were lifelike. They were blazing and powerful, as if they could burn everything. The demon god of wrath was sitting on a boulder. His right hand was hanging inwardly by his waist. He was holding a huge and sharp sword. A ferocious dragon was coiled around the sword. The demon god of wrath's left hand was bent with his elbow raised and his palm pointed to the left. Was the Akalanatha Ming of Silla Xiapingan's spiritual totem? What kind of story did the Akalanatha Ming of Silla have? What did it represent? How much of Xiapingan's previous performance in front of him was a disguise? Did he disguise himself as a completely harmless ordinary person? It seemed that Xiapingan had a lot of secret. He didn't just have the clairvoyance. However, everyone had their own secret. Mo Yanshao also had his own secret. As long as it didn't involve the duties of the Committee of Order, Mo Yanshao didn't have much interest in other people's secrets. People like Xia Pingan were the ones who should really join the Committee of Order. It was too dangerous to leave such a person outside. It was better to keep him under his nose. Fortunately, Xia Pingan would report in tomorrow. All of a sudden, Mo Yanshao was filled with anticipation for Xia Pingan's arrival tomorrow. Chapter 11. Monday, May 27th. At 8:50 in the morning, Xia Pingan arrived at the entrance of the Xianghe City National Committee of Order. The address of the Xianghe City National Committee of Order was in the north of Xianghe City. The entrance faced south, and within a few kilometers of the Committee of Order, there was a vast wilderness without any other buildings. There was only one road from the city to here, and there was only one bus stop from the bus stop to the entrance of the Committee of Order. This road was more than 500 meters long, and there were large patches of green grass on both sides of the road. There wasn't even a single tree, and everything could be seen at a glance. Under such circumstances, the black cube building of Xianghe City's National Order Committee was particularly eye-catching and had a threatening aura. There were various satellite antennas, radars and signal towers in the shape of spheres, towers and pots on the cube, making it look like a warrior in black armor holding a spear and a shield. It also looked like a strict castle. The Committee of Order was surrounded by a tall granite wall, which made it look quite mysterious. People couldn't see the situation inside at all from the outside. They only felt that it was very big inside because they could see drones and helicopters taking off from inside. The door of the Committee of Order was tightly shut. There weren't even any guards or sentries standing guard at the entrance. Xia Pingan walked over and saw the electronic display on the door light up. A lady's face appeared behind the display. "Sir, how can I help you? My name is Xia Pingan. I have an appointment with Director Mo Yanshao. I'm here to report today." "All right, please place your palm on the palm print scanner that is flashing with blue light and look at the iris recognition port on the side with both eyes." Xia Pingan placed his palm on the scanner and looked at the peritoneal membrane identification port at the side. "Okay, your identity has been confirmed. Please wait a moment." Xia Pingan waited at the door. After a short while, the door automatically slid open. Behind the door stood Mo Yanshao. Mo Yanshao was still wearing his black windbreaker and black combat suit. He looked very cool. Beside Mo Yanshao stood a middle-aged woman in her 40s. She was wearing a white lab coat and glasses. Seeing Xia Pingan, Mo Yanshao nodded and didn't waste any time. "You're very punctual. This is Dr. Huang. Dr. Huang will take you to do a comprehensive physical examination to confirm your ability. We'll talk after you're done." Xia Pingan didn't say anything. He just followed Mo Yanshao and the woman in the white lab coat towards the black building. After entering the building, they saw a spacious lobby. However, there weren't many people coming and going. On the black marble floor of the lobby, there was a huge symbol of the National Committee of Order. The symbol was an ancient balance. On the two ends of the balance were the sun and the moon. A double-headed dragon was coiled on the balance. One of the dragon's claws was holding a sword, while the other one was holding a shield. The sword and shield were crossed in the middle of the balance, maintaining the balance of the balance. There was a row of elevators in the lobby. Everything seemed to be in order. There weren't many people in sight. Xia Pingan separated from Mo Yanshao here and followed Dr. Huang into an elevator. The elevator went up. In the blink of an eye, they arrived at the third floor. The elevator door opened with a ding. There were many staff members in white lab coats in the corridor outside. The floor was spotless. This place looked like a hospital or a research institute. Dr. Huang called a person who looked like a nurse over and asked her to take Xia Pingan to the disinfection room for disinfection. Then, they went to the men's changing room and changed into a set of blue sterile clothes from head to toe. After that, they took Xia Pingan to a room. They measured his height, weight, blood pressure, took a picture, and did a physical examination. After that, they drew his blood and saliva. Finally, they entered an instrument room. After Xia Pingan entered the instrument room, he found that the instrument room started to turn over and over. Turned over and over for more than 10 minutes. It almost made him dizzy before it stopped. It took him more than an hour to complete this set of procedures. After he came out of the instrument room, Dr. Huang brought him to a black room and began to talk to Xia Pingan. Mr. Xia, how much do you know about the classification of remote vision? Dr. Huang asked. I don't know. Xia Pingan shook his head. Dr. Huang adjusted his glasses and took out a folder and a pen. He began his routine. The long-distance vision ability is a relatively rare awakened ability. However, since ancient times, there have been many people who have awakened the ability. In ancient China, the awakened long-distance vision ability was called clairvoyance. There are also many people who have awakened long-distance vision overseas. After many years of research and exploration, the various countries have now categorized the awakened abilities into different grades: S, A, B, C, D, E, F, and G grades. These grades are used to differentiate the different grades of awakened abilities. Furthermore, several large countries have developed a set of scientific methods to accurately evaluate the awakened abilities. Using scientific methods to evaluate something that couldn't be explained by science sounded a little contradictory. This classification is similar to the classification of space invasions. It's similar, so it's easier for everyone to understand. The next test I'm going to do for you is to determine the specific level of your remote vision ability. Please cooperate with me to complete the next test. We'll start with the simple one. Okay. Xia Pingan also wanted to see the level of his remote vision ability. He had never done such a test before. He was also very curious. We placed a table in the room opposite. May I ask if you can see the table in that room from here? Xia Pingan closed his eyes. After a second, he opened them again. I can see it. How many legs does that table have? Dr. Huang continued to ask. 6. Xia Pingan replied with certainty. Can you see the colors of the numbers on the 6 legs? Yes, the colors of the 6 legs are numbered from 1 to 6. They are red, blue, black, white, and yellow. Very good. Dr. Huang asked as he jotted something down in his notebook. Among the 6 table legs, one of them is hollow. There are a few heroin pills hidden inside. Can you see them? Xia Pingan closed his eyes and shook his head. He really couldn't see the internal structure of the table. In this building, there are a few rooms with the same table. Can you tell me the room numbers of those rooms? Xia Pingan closed his eyes. In the blink of an eye, he saw the room numbers of the other rooms in his mind. 201, 407, 1911, and number 371. Within 2 kilometers of this building, there are 2 places with the same table buried underground. Can you mark the approximate areas of the buried places on the map for me? Xia Pingan closed his eyes for a short while. After that, he started to mark the 2 places on the map. In a building in Xianghe City, there's also a place with the same table. Can you mark the location of that building? Xia Pingan made another mark on the map of Xianghe City. Can you confirm which floor and which room the table is in? Xia Pingan tried and shook his head. These are the coordinates on the map. Among these coordinates, there's a similar table in one of them. Can you find it? Dr. Huang took out a pile of paper slips. On the paper slips were the coordinates on all the continents in the world. The furthest one was over 10,000 kilometers away from Xia Pingan. Xia Pingan shook his head. He even started to sweat a bit. Can you see what kind of masked person entered room 201 and placed the table there before you arrived? Dr. Huang took out a picture in front of Xia Pingan. On the picture were more than 10 different Peking opera masks. Xia Pingan shook his head. He had a feeling this question had gone beyond his remote viewing ability. This was asking him to cross the barrier of time to see the past events related to the table. This power was too scary. Can you predict the fate of the table in the opposite room in 1 minute? Xia Pingan was silent for a moment before he shook his head. Not long after he shook his head, a hole appeared in the ceiling of the opposite room. A large red stone fell from the ceiling and smashed the table into pieces. A table with 6 legs gave rise to many strange questions. Dr. Huang asked Xia Pingan for more than half an hour before he ended the series of questions. Dr. Huang, what is the level of my remote viewing ability? After the test, your remote viewing ability is level F. Director Mo's is also level F? This question involves the internal secrets of the Committee of Order. I have no right to tell you. Dr. Huang shook his head. Ha ha ha, then I'll change my question. For the questions you asked me just now, I couldn't see the answers. Is it possible to see the past and future of the table? Or can you see the entire situation of the location with just a map coordinate? You can even see the things hidden underground. That's right. Some people have remote viewing abilities that are even more useful than reconnaissance satellite. In fact, various countries have been studying the use of remote viewing abilities in the military and national security fields for decades. This is no secret in the awakened circle. You will come into contact with it in the future. Xia Pingan took a deep breath. Okay, thank you Dr. Huang, I have no more questions. A few minutes later, Xia Pingan changed back into his clothes and took the elevator to leave. When the elevator door opened, Mo Yanxiao stood in front of Xia Pingan again. He held a document in his hand and looked at Xia Pingan with a peculiar gaze. I can now officially inform you that according to the country's relevant laws and regulations, because your awakened remote viewing ability can serve the country's security, and because of your good performance in the past, as a law-abiding citizen with no criminal record, you have been officially recruited by the National Committee of Order. From now on, you will be a member of the Special Operations Division of the Xianghe City National Committee of Order. Sign this document. Xia Pingan noticed that when Mo Yanxiao mentioned no criminal record, he emphasized the words no criminal record as if he was hinting at something. Xia Pingan looked at the recruitment document with the logo of the Committee of Order and hesitated. If he really signed it, many things would not be up to him in the future. Haha, what's there to hesitate about? You know how many people want to join the Committee of Order but can't. Other than the danger here, everything else is pretty good. The benefits are high, the treatment is good, the food is good, and there are many holidays. You can encounter all kinds of exciting things. If you join, we'll be colleagues in the future. You'll have plenty of time to go on holiday in Strasbourg, France. Mo Yanxiao looked at Xia Pingan and smiled. Xia Pingan looked at Mo Yanxiao and smiled. Then, he took the pen and signed the document. It's my honor to serve the country. I'm very happy to join the Committee of Order. Mo Yanxiao looked at the document Xia Pingan signed and smiled. He put the document away. Believe me, you won't regret it. I heard that awakened ones who join the Committee of Order will ask to fuse with the realm bead and try to become a summoner? Yes. Compared to ordinary people, awakened ones who fuse with the realm bead won't have a rejection reaction. There's one less factor of failure. Although there's a certain probability of losing your life every time you fuse with the realm bead, it's the awakened's duty and privilege. You won't refuse, right? Xia Pingan took a deep breath. When can I fuse with the realm bead? It's already in the process of application. The higher-ups will approve it within 72 hours. Let's go. I'll show you around here and familiarize you with the environment. Chapter 12. Xia Pingan followed Mo Yanxiao around the building. Mo Yanxiao introduced the Committee of Order to Xia Pingan as they walked. There were also a few charmingly naive robots walking around in the building. Mo Yanxiao casually placed the document signed by Xia Pingan on a robot's tray and asked the robot to deliver it to the archives room. The robot turned around and went into the elevator to deliver the document. The Committee of Order's main responsibility is to deal with dimensional invasions and threats from otherworldly creatures. At the same time, we deal with all matters related to summoners, awakened ones, and all supernatural forces that threaten national security and social stability. The National Committee of Order's operations force in Xianghe City is divided into two parts. One is the Special Operations Division. The main personnel of the Special Operations Division are divided into two parts. One is combat personnel, and the other is logistics support personnel. The combat personnel are mainly summoners and awakened ones like you. The Special Operations Division is directly under my command. In addition to the Special Operations Division, there is also a military base behind this building. There is a regiment of the National Committee of Order's Security Response Force in the base. The chief officer of the Security Response Force is Colonel C. Shimming. According to the nature and difficulty of the mission, the Security Response Force will cooperate with us, but sometimes the Special Operations Division will act alone. Also, we will receive requests for assistance from the Xianghe City Police, the Drug Enforcement Department, the Department of Homeland Security, and other departments. We will also carry out some missions with those departments. You will know in the future. The two of them talked as they walked. In just a few words, Mo Yanshao brought Xia Pingan to the door of an office with a sign hanging on it. Mo Yanshao pushed the door open and walked in. The atmosphere in the office was relaxed. There was even music playing. There was the aroma of coffee in the office. A plump woman in her 40s wearing a loose dress was taking care of a bonsai with a spray bottle in the office. She looked quite relaxed. When she saw Mo Yanshao come in, the woman put down the spray bottle and called out, "Director!" "Well, this is Lu Qi, the Director of Financial Affairs of our Special Operations Division. You can call her Sister Lu." Mo Yanshao said to Xia Pingan, "In the future, you can collect special event funds or claim the operation expenses right here." After talking to Xia Pingan, Mo Yanshao said to the middle-aged woman, "Sister Lu, this is a new recruit in the Special Operations Division. Help him with the financial procedures according to the Special Operations Division's Level 1 salary." "All right." Big Sister Lu glanced at Xia Pingan, turned around, opened the drawer, took out a form, and handed it over with a smile. "Young man, come, sign here. Write down the name of the beneficiary of your accident compensation and your relationship. Don't be nervous, this is just a formality. The basic monthly salary for a Level 1 employee is 69,000 renminbi, which is paid on the first of every month. Operational bonuses and special allowances are not included. Your salary card will be given to you when you receive your salary. The compensation for accidents will be accumulated based on your years of service in the Special Operations Division. The first year is 4 million renminbi, and it will increase by 500,000 renminbi every year. The basic monthly salary was 69,000 yuan, and that did not include bonuses and special allowances. This treatment was not bad. It could be considered the salary of a high-ranking white-collar worker. It was much better than when he was an auto mechanic. The compensation for accidents was also a large sum. With such a stable salary, he could consider changing Xia Pingan's place of residence. Yes, he could buy a house. Xia Pingan had always wanted to have a stable home. He did not have to rent houses everywhere and pay rent every month, Xia Pingan thought to himself. He quickly signed the form. As for the beneficiary, of course, he wrote down Xia Pingan's name. After filling out the form, Xia Pingan handed it over. Big Sister Lu looked at it and nodded. "It's done." She put the form away and continued to take care of her potted plant. Mo Yanshao brought Xia Pingan out of the finance office. "May I ask, what is the Level 1 salary in the Special Operations Division?" Xia Pingan asked purely out of curiosity. "Level 19. Mo Yanshao smiled. "My salary is Level 5. The basic monthly salary is 390,000 yuan. The Committee of Order will not be stingy to people with special abilities. The country will not let us bleed and suffer poverty. The highest annual salary of a summoner in the Committee of Order is in the hundreds of millions, comparable to a high-ranking fund manager. There are no poor people in the Special Operations Division. A summoner with an annual salary in the hundreds of millions? It seemed that there were no poor summoners. Now that you mention it, I feel like I'm taking advantage of the situation here, Xia Pingon said to Emo Yanxiao. You're not taking advantage of the situation either. The price of hiring summoners and awakened ones is not low. Moreover, working here is a high-risk occupation. This salary is a friendship price because of the service to the country. Summoners and awakened ones are paid even more when they are hired by other countries' governments, large companies, large groups, and private rich people. Xia Pingon blinked. Working here gives me the opportunity to earn extra money outside? You'll know in the future. Summoners are a scarce resource. Not every country or rich person can keep a group of summoners on standby at all times like the big countries. Now that you mention it, I kind of understand. Xia Pingon nodded. By the way, the Committee of Order seems to prefer the number 9. My level 1 salary is 69,000 yuan. Your level 4 salary is 390,000 yuan. There are 19 levels in the entire salary system? Ha, you've noticed it too. Summoners can be quite superstitious sometimes. This is a tradition passed down from many years ago. Everyone thinks that the number 9 is auspicious and symbolizes longevity. Therefore, the basic salary of all levels ends with the number 9. The two of them chatted as they got into the elevator. Emo Yanxiao pressed the button for B7. In the blink of an eye, the elevator flew down and arrived at B7. As soon as the elevator door opened, Xia Pingon heard the faint sound of gunshots coming from this floor. This is the Special Operations Division's equipment warehouse and training ground. You'll definitely come here often in the future. Walking out of the elevator, they passed through a passageway that was more than 20 meters long. After turning a corner, Xia Pingon felt like he had arrived at a large superstore. The floor of the store was shiny and brightly lit. It looked a bit like a place that sold jewelry and luxury goods. It was very stylish. Behind a long counter and a display window were display shelves. The goods on the shelves were dazzling. On the left side of this superstore were all kinds of premium firearms from all over the world. There were pistols, assault rifles, sniper rifles, submachine guns, grenade sniper rifles. It could be said that it had everything. If a gun enthusiast came here and saw the dazzling array of firearms, they might faint from happiness. In the middle of the counter were all kinds of cold weapons. There were all kinds of daggers, swords, machetes, spears, nunchucks, darts, and so on. Every weapon here had its own unique characteristic. It was dazzling. On the right side of the counter was more like a luxury brand store. The display windows inside were sparkling. There were well-ironed suits, shirts, shoes, belts, watches, mobile phones, earrings, necklaces, bags, bulletproof vests, tactical vests, and so on. The weapons here are high-quality goods from all over the world. We also support customization and modification according to your needs. The clothes may look ordinary to you, but they are actually made of special polymer materials. Every shirt here is bulletproof and stab-proof. The standard equipment of the Special Operations Division is distributed free of charge. However, if you want to come here to customize something special, you will need money. Some of the items are very expensive. Is that so? Emo Yanxiao rubbed his nose ruefully and smiled bitterly. When you receive your salary, you think you're rich, but when you come here, you'll realize you're poor. As the two of them were talking, the door behind the counter opened. An old man with a bald head, a potbelly, and white hair walked out. He wore glasses as thick as the bottom of a glass bottle, a fountain pen in his ear, and a tape measure on his shoulder. He was wearing a gray shirt and denim overalls. Director Mo, another newcomer? This old man looked like an old tailor. This is Xia Pingan, a newcomer from the Special Operations Division. This is Lao Zhou, director of the Equipment Department. On this floor, he has the final say. Everyone listens to him. Mo Yanshao introduced Xia Pingan and the old man to each other. Lao Zhou, take a look. Give him a newcomer's outfit. Newcomer's outfit, sure. The old man smiled and glanced at Xia Pingan. He grinned. Kid, come here. Give me both your hands. I'll see what's suitable for you. Hand reading? What was he doing? Palm reading here? Xia Pingan glanced at Mo Yanshao. Mo Yanshao nodded at him, indicating for Xia Pingan to cooperate. Xia Pingan didn't say anything. He walked over and extended his hands. Relax your hands, Lao Zhou said as he touched Xia Pingan's right hand. He touched every knuckle and bone on Xia Pingan's right hand from the fingertips to the shoulder. He even took out a tape measure to measure the distance between Xia Pingan's wrist to his elbow, then from his elbow to his shoulder. After touching the right hand, Lao Zhou touched Xia Pingan's left hand. He used the same method to pinch and measure it. After touching Xia Pingan's hand, Lao Zhou turned around and rummaged through the shelves. He then took out a box and placed it in front of Xia Pingan. He opened the box. Inside was a shiny silver large-caliber revolver with a scope. Kid, this is the most suitable pistol for you. It's the enhanced sniper version of the Manuel MR-73 from the Matra Defense Company in France. This is an improved version of the Manuel MR-73. It looks almost exactly the same as the MR-73, but the caliber is a bit bigger and the barrel is a bit longer. The caliber of the MR-73 is .357, but this gun's caliber is .5. This gun preserves the shooting accuracy of the MR-73 to the greatest extent. It's safe and reliable. At the same time, it can fire 50 Magnum high-power bullet. The maximum kinetic energy of the muzzle is 3,100 joules. Can even take down a wild bear. The scope on the gun was installed by the Matra Defense Company when it was used by the Special Forces. I think this design really reflects the funny spirit of the Gauls, so I kept it. 3,100 joules of kinetic energy at the muzzle. F***CK. The kinetic energy of an AK-47 was only 2,000 joules. If the person who used this gun didn't have enough wrist strength, the gun would fly out of his hand after one shot. It might even fly back and smash into his face. Before Xia Pingan could react, Lao Zhou went to the cold weapons rack behind him and took out a black box. He opened the box. Inside was a black steel whip that was rolled up like a cobra. It was quite heavy. The handle of the steel whip was very thick, and the tail was very thin. At first glance, it looked like a black cobra. Seeing Lao Zhou take out the box, Mo Yanshao's eyebrows twitched. He pointed at the long black whip. Lao Zhou, the black cobra in your box has been here for many years. No one can use it. Are you sure he can use it? If he doesn't use it well, he might hurt himself. Lao Zhou glared at Mo Yanshao and snorted stubbornly. I can't be wrong. Others can't use it, but this kid definitely can. Even if he can't use it now, he will definitely be able to use it in the future. Why don't we make a bet? Forget it. Mo Yanshao rubbed his nose. He didn't want to bet with Lao Zhou. When Lao Zhou took out the silver Manuel MR-98, Xia Pingan was not surprised. However, when Lao Zhou took out the black steel whip from the second box, Xia Pingan was surprised. How did Lao Zhou know that he could use a whip? Chapter 13. When they left the equipment warehouse, Xia Pingan had 2 boxes in his hands. One box contained the enhanced version of the Manuel MR-98 sniper revolver and holster, as well as 100 large-caliber steel core bullet. The other box contained the steel whip called the Black Cobra. These 2 weapons, especially the steel whip, were custom-made and could not be bought outside. Mo Yanxiao felt that it was a little strange that Lao Zhou had chosen these two weapons for Xia Pingan, but he did not have the courage to challenge Lao Zhou's judgment. In this regard, Lao Zhou was the authority of the Xianghe Committee of Order. Xia Pingan's phone was left behind. Lao Zhou said that from now on, Xia Pingan's phone could not be used. He had to change to a special, secure phone. The Committee of Order's phones were custom-made and were more reliable and durable. They had encryption, anti-eavesdropping, and some other functions. They were standard equipment for all Special Operations Division personnel. It would take an hour to change the phone. Lao Zhou told Xia Pingan to come back and get it an hour later. There is a shooting range and a cold weapons training ground on this floor. In the future, you can come here to practice shooting or using the steel whip. The main combat personnel of the Special Operations Division are Summoners and Awakened Ones. As Summoners and Awakened Ones, they usually carry non-automatic weapons or cold weapons for self-defense. Heavy weapons and automatic weapons can also be obtained when missions require them, but they are not used often. Targets that can be dealt with automatic weapons and heavy weapons are usually dealt with by the assault team of the Security Response Force. Mo Yanxiao explained to Xia Pingan as he led Xia Pingan to the elevator. Lao Zhou is also an awakened one? Yes. What is his awakened ability? His awakened ability is actually not that special. It's the kind of ability that can give you the answer of two 7-digit numbers in 1 second. This ability is a talent in mathematical calculations, but Ol Zhou is a natural weapon enthusiast. He combined his awakened ability with his hobby to form a unique ability, or rather, intuition. The things he chooses for you will definitely be the most suitable for you to use. Lao Zhou doesn't have a family? He's not young anymore. Mo Yanxiao was silent for a moment. Lao Zhou's family members were all killed in the dimensional invasion. That's why he insisted on serving the Committee of Order. In his words, this is his life and he won't go anywhere else. He will make equipment for whoever kills those monsters. Xia Pingan was slightly dejected. He whispered, I understand, yes, your custom-made clothes will take 3 days to make. You can come and collect them after 3 days. The normal bullets used for training here are unlimited, but you'll need my signature to collect the special silver bullets. You should know why there are silver bullets, right? I've heard a bit about it. Ordinary steel, lead, and copper bullets don't do much damage to those space-invading creatures. The wounds of those space-invading creatures heal very quickly. Only silver bullets do the most damage to those space-invading creatures. After being hit, those space-invading creatures' wounds are very difficult to heal. Xia Pingan said. Silver bullets were also known as demon hunting bullet. This was the result of countless years of experience fighting dimensional invaders. Silver was one of the trace elements in human tissue. An appropriate amount of silver ions was beneficial to the human body and could play a role in disinfection and sterilization. However, silver ions entering the dimensional invaders' bodies could destroy their physiological functions. The legend of silver warding off evil spirits was not groundless. The two of them walked into the elevator. Mo Yanxiao pressed another floor. It was the 9th floor. You can pick up the silver bullets during missions. Of course, we can prepare some during normal times. Other than the silver bullets, there are higher-level divine bullets. However, we don't have any divine bullets in our equipment department. Only some summoners who have mastered divine runes can make their own divine bullet. You will come into contact with them in the future. Okay, got it. Where do we go now? I'll show you your room. Everyone in the Special Operations Division has a private room in this building. It can be used for office work and for resting and lodging when on standby. Is it a dormitory? You can also understand it that way. There are no lazy guys in the Special Operations Division who don't have a family. When they don't have missions and don't go out, they live here all year round. Summoners can't be disturbed when fusing with the Realm Bead. It's the safest place to fuse with the Realm Bead. The elevator soon stopped on the 9th floor with a ding. Mo Yanxiao led Xia Pingan to the passage in front. There were rooms on both sides of the passage. The room numbers were very interesting. They all started with the number 9. Xia Pingan knew at a glance that this was probably another superstition of the summoners. The two of them came to the door with the number 963 written on it. There was a smart lock outside the room. It was opened by palm print and iris recognition. After opening the door and entering the room, Xia Pingan realized that this room was not small for a person. There were 3 rooms inside. One room was like an office with a desk, a computer, and a bookcase. Connected to this office was a bedroom. The bedroom had a wardrobe, bathroom, and everything else. It was the configuration of a suite in a high-class hotel. Connected to the bedroom was a secret training room. There was also a weapons cabinet in the office. It was used to store all kinds of weapons. After walking around the room, Xia Pingan placed the weapons he had received in the weapons cabinet. Then, Mo Yanxiao continued to bring Xia Pingan outside to familiarize himself with the environment. The general feeling was that there were not many people in this building. It seemed empty, but everyone was doing their own things. If they did not push open those rooms, it was almost impossible to see anyone loitering in the corridors. According to young Master Moyen, the name of the Public Order Committee was very scary. When they were carrying out special missions, in order to avoid public panic and excessive media speculation, the Special Operations Division would often put on some disguises when they were working. These aliases included, but were not limited to, security personnel from security companies, private detectives, media reporters, investigators from commercial investigation companies, forensic lawyers from law firms, environmental inspectors from government agencies, undercover police officers, disaster assessors from disaster prevention centers, and so on. It sounded quite interesting. The morning passed in the blink of an eye. When it was time for lunch, Xia Pingan finally met the other members of the Special Operations Division at the buffet restaurant of the Committee of Order. The bald man with steel teeth called Old Tu was also there. Old Tu's full name was Tupolu. He had just come down from the gym during lunch and was sweating profusely. Old Tu ate half a roast suckling pig for lunch. The short-haired beauty with a hot body and a cold temperament was called Fong Ling Shan. When she heard Mo Yanxiao introduce Xia Pingan, Fong Ling Shan only glanced at Xia Pingan and nodded slightly. There was also a flashy, greasy middle-aged man wearing a flowery shirt and slippers who came to the restaurant. He was also a member of the Special Operations Division. This flashy middle-aged man was called Man Zi. Man Zi was the person in charge of the Information Center of Shanghai City's Committee of Order. He was a professional stock market speculator. According to Mo Yanxiao, this flashy man, Man Zi, was also the richest member of the Shanghai City's Committee of Order's Special Operations Division. It was hard to guess his net worth. In addition to these people, Xia Pingan also saw 2 members of the Special Operations Division. The 2 of them were a man and a woman. The man was called Chao Xinghua. He was a muscular man in his late 20s with a determined face and short hair. Chao Xinghua was also a summoner. He was a man of few words. If he had nothing to do, he would go to various training rooms. After finishing his meal in 3 minutes, he would immediately disappear from the restaurant. He had no interest in chatting at all. The other woman was called Enching. She was the kind of absolute beauty that would make people's eyes light up. Enching had a head of long black hair that draped over her shoulders. Her skin was white and beautiful, and her eyes were bright. When she smiled, there were 2 cute dimples on her cheek. When she spoke, she was gentle and quiet. When others spoke, she would listen attentively. She was completely the model of the goddess in countless young men's dreams. If Fong Lingshan was the North Pole's 10,000-year iceberg, then Enching was the human world's April sky. Looking at Enching's appearance, It was hard to imagine that this kind of woman was also a summoner. According to Mo Yenshao, there was still a man in the Special Operations Division who hadn't come down to eat yet. He was still sleeping. The other summoners in the Special Operations Division were still on vacation or carrying out other missions. The missions of the summoners of the Xianghe City's Committee of Order were not limited to Xianghe City. If there were special and unexpected situations in other places, the Committee of Order in other places could mobilize people to provide support. At the moment, there were only 6 summoners on duty in this building. Qing Qing, do you have time tonight? Come to my place to listen to hi-fi. I just bought a set of speakers for 4 million. The effects are great. My house is big and comfortable. At the dinner table, Manzi swallowed his saliva and stared at Enqing with shining eyes. He invited Enqing to his house to listen to hi-fi. Damn, this flirtatious man was openly sexually harassing a summoner at the dinner table? Xia Pingan watched with interest. Enqing smiled and drank a mouthful of freshly squeezed juice. She still maintained her politeness. Uncle, you're too old. It's better for us to maintain a generation gap. Oh right, I saw that there's wolfberry and white fungus soup. Uncle, do you want some? The smile on the flirtatious man Zi's face suddenly stiffened. Xia Pingan seemed to have heard the flirtatious man's heart being stabbed. At this moment, Mo Yenshao's phone rang. Mo Yenshao took out his phone and his expression changed slightly. Stop bickering. A fire suddenly broke out at Tianqin's shopping center in Xianghe City. The fire department has already been dispatched. There are also apartment buildings above the shopping center. There are people trapped in the shopping center and apartment buildings. Because the fire spread too quickly, the fire department is unable to determine the location and number of people trapped in the shopping center and apartment buildings. This will affect the speed of rescue. At the same time, the cause of the fire has yet to be determined. The fire department has already asked the Committee of Order for help. Mo Yenshao put down his phone and looked at the few people present. His gaze fell on Xia Pingan. This will be your first mission. Enqing, go with Xia Pingan. Chapter 14. The red Ferrari 599 was like a runaway horse as it rushed out of the Committee of Orders gate. The strong pushing force pressed Xia Pingan's whole body tightly against the back of the passenger's seat. It only took a few seconds for the red sports car to reach the end of the road that was a few hundred meters from the entrance of the Order Committee. The red sports car made a beautiful 90-degree drift at the end of the road and made an ear-piercing screech on the road. Then, it directly got on the road and began to speed like lightning. Damn! Xia Pingan didn't expect Enqing, such a bright and beautiful woman, to be so wild when driving. What was more exciting was that the car didn't slow down at all. Enqing reached out her hand and took out a police light from beside her seat. She opened the window and put the police light on the roof of the car. When the police light started to blare, Enqing had already closed the window. The blaring sound outside the car suddenly became much quieter. This was a woman who could drive a Ferrari with one hand. The car was driving so fast, but the woman's face was still calm, as if she was sitting in a sightseeing car. Actually, the Committee of Order received assistance from various government agencies. More than 90% of them had nothing to do with space invasions or supernatural factors, but we had to send people to confirm it. Enqing chatted with Xia Pingan as she drove. She was like a sister next door patiently tutoring her junior. In the past, this kind of thing was done by the director himself. He was the only person in the Xianghe Committee of Orders Special Operations Division with the remote vision ability. Now that you're here, he can pass the responsibility to you if he needs to use the remote vision ability. Among all the awakened ability, the remote vision ability is the most widely used. That's why he hurriedly recruited you, just to be lazy. Sister, you should focus on driving. I don't want to see the news of me getting into a traffic accident tomorrow. Xia Pingan glanced at the speedometer on the car. It was already 180 kilometers per hour. And Qing smiled and stepped on the accelerator a little more. A group of racers who were practicing riding bicycles on the road were left behind. The racers were stunned and could only eat the exhaust from the car. "You're such a coward. Old Tu said that you're quite brave. You even dared to run into a hole while chasing after a demon rat. I just want to live a few more years." Xia Pingan looked at the road ahead, and some images appeared in his mind. There's an old man riding an electric scooter up ahead. He's picking up a box of apples he dropped by the roadside. You'll bump into him in a few seconds after you turn the corner. You'd better slow down. You're definitely qualified to be a navigator. And Qing chuckled and said, but the car suddenly slowed down. A few seconds later, the Ferrari turned and passed through a forest on the side of the road. They saw an old man squatting on the road to pick up apples. The Ferrari passed by him slowly without any danger. A few minutes later, Xia Pingan could already see a plume of black smoke rising into the sky from the downtown area of Xianghe. At the sight of the black smoke, Xia Pingan knew that the fire was not over. And Qing drove very fast. A few minutes later, the red Ferrari followed several fire trucks and drove to the street near the Tianjin shopping center where the fire broke out. A cordon had been set up on the street, and a large number of people rushed out from the door under the shopping center. More than 10 fire trucks were parked on the street, and teams of firefighters were running up and down the street with hoses. Because this was a downtown area, there were more people and cars, and traffic police were here to disperse and direct the traffic. And Qing stopped the car by the roadside, took a work pass hanging around her neck, and handed it to Xia Pingan. "Wear it." She also wore a pass. The two got off the car and walked directly to the shopping center. When the police officer who was holding the cordon saw the two of them walking over, he glanced at the sign hanging on their bodies, then looked at Qing again. Without asking anything, he let the two of them enter the cordon. Thick smoke billowed in the shopping center, and the fire was coming out from the windows of the shopping center. It was very big. In the apartments above the shopping center, thick smoke and fire were also coming out. The situation was not optimistic. The fire trucks had set up ladders and were using high-pressure water guns to suppress the fire. Firefighters were constantly rushing against the flow to the shopping center, where the smoke billowed, and rescued some of the elderly and children who had not yet evacuated. Some people in the apartments waved their towels and arms at the windows of their respective houses to attract the attention of the people below. 2 vehicles with high-altitude rescue ladders were parked downstairs. The long rescue ladders continued to rise, and began to rescue the people trapped in the apartments. Below the building, life-saving air mattresses were laid out. Just between the fire trucks at the scene, a few men in the uniform of the fire department were talking loudly with a few men in suit. They were holding a blueprint and discussing it intensely. Most of the people in the shopping center have been evacuated. Our team members have already rushed in and are searching for the people trapped in the shopping center and the apartments. The smoke is too thick, and the team members who rushed in are still searching. The fire has already spread. There are more than 300 rooms in the apartment building, and it's too late to search the rooms one by one. The property manager of the building said there are still people trapped in the basement, but the exact location isn't clear. Where's the drone? Get the drone to pull the hose up. Seeing Xia Pingan and Qing walk over, a middle-aged man in the uniform of the fire department relaxed and hurried over. That's great, you're finally here. Miss and Dynamo isn't here? The man glanced behind them. Chief Fei, this is our new colleague. Dynamo sent us here to assist you. Hearing Qing's introduction, the chief of the fire department started to seriously size up Xia Pingan. His face was filled with doubt. Can he see the situation inside? Xia Pingan looked at the burning building and said directly, There are a few people trapped in the fifth tunnel leading to the shelter on the second floor of the basement of the shopping center, Zone B. At this moment, there was no need to explain, it was better to let the other party see his ability. Once Xia Pingan said, "Oh," Chief Fei's expression changed. He immediately took over the communication device and started to arrange for the rescue. Xia Pingan activated his remote vision ability. Within the smoke-filled shopping mall, images of people constantly appeared in Xia Pingan's consciousness. There are 2 women and 2 children trapped in the female washroom on the second floor of the eastern area of the shopping center. There are 7 employees in the freezer of Happy Restaurant on the 4th floor of the shopping center. One of your firefighters fell in the stairwell on the 5th floor of the shopping center. He's unable to move. The smoke is too thick, please send help immediately. There is a child under the sofa in the living room of apartment 6011. There is an unconscious old man in a wheelchair in the living room of apartment 7031. There is a mother and child hiding in the washroom of apartment 7066. There are 3 children in apartment 8009. A firefighter is trapped in the B3 area of the eastern area of the second floor of the shopping center. Please send help immediately. As Xia Pingan accurately reported each piece of information, the rescue operation on the spot started to become more targeted and efficient. A summoner with remote viewing ability could increase the rescue efficiency of the fire department by more than 10 times. While Xia Pingan was reporting the situation in the shopping center and the apartment with his remote viewing ability, Anqing, whose eyes were closed, became more and more serious. Summoners were very sensitive to summoning spells and other supernatural forces. However, Yasuharu sensed the residual aura of a supernatural element in the shopping center and apartment building burning with thick smoke and flames. This fire was not an accident, it was the intervention of supernatural forces. Xia Pingan was searching the building with his remote viewing ability. Suddenly, a scene appeared in Xia Pingan's consciousness. In apartment 9089 on the 9th floor of the apartment building, the heads, torsos, and limbs of 3 people were completely dismembered. 3 bloody torsos, 6 legs, and 6 arms were arranged into the pattern of an eye in the room. The eyeball in the middle of the pattern was the head of 3 people with their mouths open in agony. The floor of the room was covered in blood. The pattern formed by the 3 severed limbs was creepy and horrifying. The blood on the floor flowed into the eyes formed by the severed limbs and flowed out of the eye pattern. It looked like a horrifying eye with bloody tears flowing out of its eyes. Chapter 15. An hour later, the fire in Xianghe City's Tianqin shopping center and the apartment above was completely under control. The cordon outside the building was still there, but the fire trucks had already left. The people who could be saved had been saved, and the people who couldn't be saved would never be saved. The loss of property in this fire hadn't been calculated yet, but the number of people who died in the fire had been calculated. There were a total of 11 people, and these 11 people didn't include the 3 corpses in room 9089 on the 9th floor of the apartment building. The corridor of the apartment building was filled with smoke, and there were traces of the fire everywhere. The ground was full of black puddles, and it was a mess. The ceiling was burned through by the fire, revealing black holes. The steel frame on the ceiling was twisted and scattered, making the narrow corridor of the apartment building even narrower. The entrance of the corridor on the 9th floor of the apartment building was cordoned off by the National Committee of Order. Other than the people from the Committee of Order, the police and the fire department couldn't enter. Mo Yenshao's leather boots stepped on the puddles on the ground, stepping over the burnt things on the ground, and walked in the corridor of the apartment building. Beside and behind Mo Yenshao were 2 Polu, Fang Lingshan, Chao Xinghua, and a handsome man with long hair, wearing a black suit and a slightly tired face. The handsome man walked at the back, looking lazy and listless, but his nose was twitching, and his eyes were sneakily looking left and right. And Qing was right, there is indeed the aura of a fireball summoned by a spell here. The fire here wasn't an accident. The handsome man with long hair said as he walked. Almost all the personnel of the National Committee of Orders Special Operations Division stationed in Xianghe City had arrived. Mo Yinshao's brows were tightly knitted, and he didn't say a word. He had already seen the situation in room 9089, and his expression was somewhat grave. Damn, those bastards came out again? Tu Polu, who was carrying a large knife on his back, licked his lips, and his eyes shone brightly, like a fierce tiger that had smelled something. Fang Lingshan was still cold, and the muscular man Chao Xinghua was still silent, not saying a word. These two people were a perfect match. The few of them walked, and in the blink of an eye, they arrived at the entrance of apartment 9089. The door to the room, which was pitch black from the smoke, was open, and the room number could still be seen clearly. Xia Pingan and Enqing were both inside, and the bloody picture of the 3 corpses on the ground had not been touched. Standing in front of the image of the 3 corpses, he could feel the terrifying aura of the blood-red demon eye. Compared to this place, the slaughterhouse and the morgue were like children's playgrounds. Xia Pingan glanced at the handsome man with long hair who walked in with Mo Yanshao and the others. That man should be the one who was sleeping in the headquarters and didn't come downstairs for dinner. His name seemed to be Li Yunzhou. Kid, do you want to wait outside? The environment here isn't very friendly to newcomers. Be careful that you don't get nightmares at night and won't be able to eat for a few days. Tu Polu said in a low voice when he walked into the room and saw that Xia Pingan was also here. It's okay, I want to get used to it, Xia Pingan said calmly. Xia Pingan can stay, Mo Yanshao said, and then glanced at Enqing. Have you figured out the identities of these 3 people? I've figured it out. It's the family living in room 9089. They were killed last night. Yasuharu sighed. This room number was specially selected. It's a provocation to us. It's just that the divine aura left in the building can no longer be traced. And Qing looked at the corpses of the victims in the room. There was only a trace of grief in her eyes, and there was no fear. Because summoners were superstitious about the number 9, the room number was 9089. Mo Yanshao squatted in front of the strange demon eye pattern, put on a transparent medical glove, and used his fingers to pry open the lower eyelids of the 2 eyes of the male head in the middle of the eye pattern. He sighed and stood up. It was done by those people. Before these 3 victims were dismembered, they were hit with a perceptual sharpening spell. This way, when they were dismembered, they could completely squeeze out their pain, fear, and all the negative emotions and perceptions in their bodies and consciousnesses to complete this demon eye ritual, these bastards. If I find them, I'll skin them one by one. Tu Polu gritted his teeth. We're still not sure how many of them there are? Li Yunzhou said. Boss, it's best to get a few reinforcements from headquarters. The demon eye is capable of doing anything. Several hours have already passed, and we are still unable to ascertain whether the culprit is still within Fragrant River City. With the time we have had, they might have even left the fire country. Let's report this to the headquarters first and get them to provide us with information. See if there are any special personnel who have entered Fragrant River City recently, as this place could very well be a trap to draw our attention away. Xianghe City's anti-space invasion warning level will be raised by 1 level. Tonight, everyone, start lighting up the lamps. 2 people in a team. After Mo Yanshao finished speaking, he turned around and walked toward the door. After confirming the situation here, everyone followed Mo Yanshao and left the apartment. Xia Pingan walked at the back. He had a stomach full of questions, but it was not convenient for him to ask at this time. After everyone left, Another team from the Committee of Order that specialized in disposing of corpses entered apartment 9089 and began disposing of the corpses in the room. These corpses that were contaminated with the Committee of Order were all high-risk items. Under the influence of some supernatural forces, the dead could kill people, so these corpses had special procedures to deal with them. It was not something that the forensic doctors and coroners in the police station could handle. Moreover, in order to avoid causing public panic, it was not appropriate for organizations outside the Committee of Order to intervene. You did well today. If you have nothing to do for the next 2 days, stay at headquarters for the time being and prepare to fuse with the Realm Pearl. Don't go home for the time being. Mo Yanshao said to Xia Pingan as they walked out the door. Xia Pingan nodded. Xia Ning lived at school, so he did not need to go home for the next few days. Moreover, the living conditions at headquarters were better. The food in the cafeteria was very delicious and free. It was much better than cooking noodles at home. Anqing and Xia Pingan will go back to headquarters with us. Go back and prepare now. We're going to light up the lamps tonight. Mo Yanshao said to Anqing. Anqing did not say much and just nodded. As for the Ferrari that Anqing drove here, it seemed insignificant and no one paid attention to it. Xia Pingan could clearly feel that the devil's eye in the room made everyone in the Special Operations Division tense up. As for lighting up, it was a professional term in the Special Operations Division. They had to work at night. Everyone went up to the rooftop. A grayish-blue civilian version of the Falcon helicopter was parked there. Mo Yanshao and the others had flown the helicopter over. Everyone boarded the helicopter. Fang Lingshan sat in the pilot's seat and started the helicopter. The helicopter took off and brought everyone back to headquarters. In a short time, the helicopter had already reached the helipad on the rooftop of the National Committee of Order in Xianghe City. Everyone got off the helicopter. It was only then that Xia Pingan spoke. Director Mo, what does the devil's eye mean? Is there any information that I should know? Li Yunzhou, this is Xia Pingan, a newbie in the Special Operations Division. He will be training the newbie in the Special Operations Division for the next few days. You can explain his problems to him. Mo Yanshao said directly to Li Yunzhou. Ah, training a newbie again? Li Yunzhou's face turned bitter. Boss, I'm seriously lacking sleep. Recently, I've been suffering from low blood sugar, nervous breakdown, endocrine disorder, irregular heartbeat, and intermittent hysteria. My temper is also bad. Also, I just woke up and haven't brushed my teeth. How can I leave this to someone else? Sure, you can leave it to someone else. You have so many problems with your body and your work efficiency is too low. Don't take this month's bonus. Leave it to someone else. Mo Yanshao ignored Li Yunzhou and walked towards the elevator with the back of his head facing Li Yunzhou. No one else paid him any attention. Boss, don't. I'll do it, okay. Li Yunzhou screamed at the top of his lungs. He chased after Mo Yanshao for a few steps and the smile on his face turned into a flattering one. Oh right, can you give me a bigger bonus this month? Sure, if you want a bigger bonus than the others, you'll be in a group by yourself tonight. Capable people do more work. Ha ha ha, I'm just kidding. Boss, don't take it seriously. I'll be in a group with you tonight. Li Yunzhou smiled flatteringly. Fang Lingshan looked at him with disdain and scoff. Xia Pingan looked at Li Yunzhou speechlessly. He didn't notice anything special about Li Yunzhou earlier because he didn't say much. Now, it seemed like this Li Yunzhou was just a joker. Chapter 16. After Mo Yanshao and the others left in the elevator, Li Yunzhou turned his head and looked at Xia Pingan seriously. He suddenly put on a stern face, coughed twice, and took out his dignity. Kid, what's with that look? Let me tell you, don't think you're amazing just because you have the ability to see from afar. In the Committee of Order, Awakened ones are similar to cleaning aunties. Do you understand? There's still a huge gap between awakened ones and summoners. In the next 2 years, your chances of becoming a summoner are less than 1 in 50. Even if you're lucky and accidentally become a summoner, you still have to call me senior respectfully, understand? Understood, senior. Xia Pingan smiled. By the way, senior, you haven't answered my question yet. What does the demon eye mean? Hearing Xia Pingan calling him senior obediently, Li Yunzhou puffed out his chest as his vanity was greatly satisfied. Waving his hand, he said, "This is not the place to talk. Let's go to the small conference room of the information center. As your senior, I'll tell you how dangerous this world is for a newbie like you." Xia Pingan's words made Li Yunzhou feel extremely proud. A few minutes later, in the small conference room of the information center, Li Yunzhou stood in front of the huge screen in the conference room, pointed at the strange and terrifying demon eye photos piled up with human flesh, and began to tell Xia Pingan about it. This is the demon eye. The demon eye we saw today was considered small, and only 3 people were sacrificed. The photo in the middle of the screen was taken by the Committee of Order in 1993 on the outskirts of a city in Rwanda, Africa. This demon eye sacrificed more than 6,800 people. The photo of the demon eye that Li Yunzhou pointed to was taken from the sky. The dismembered human corpses were piled up into a mountain in an open space that covered an area of dozens of acres. The corpses formed the eye, and the piled-up heads formed the eyeball. It was bloody and terrifying to the extreme. Moreover, the piled-up corpses had rotted and maggots had grown. Such a scene was difficult to describe with words. It was the first time Xia Pingan had seen such a photo, and his heart was in turmoil. He just narrowed his eyes, frowned slightly, and pursed his lips tightly. In addition to the photo of Rwanda, there were also various photos of demon eyes on the screen. The demon eyes in all the photos were constructed from dismembered human corpses. Those photos were a challenge to people's endurance. For the other demon eyes, the number of people sacrificed varies from a few to hundreds. All the heads, hands, feet, and torsos of the sacrificed people will be dismembered into 6 parts. Because this demon eye is too evil and terrifying, it will cause great panic among ordinary people. The media of various countries will not publish such photos. It is something that ordinary people are strictly prohibited from knowing. Of course, you're now qualified to know a little. Is the A-class space invasion in Rwanda in Africa related to the demon eye in the photo in 1994? Xia Pingan asked. Boy, you're very smart. Li Yunzhou nodded. The demon eye is an evil sacrificial ritual. This sacrificial ritual can completely squeeze out the negative energy and negative emotions of humans. For space invaders, the demon eye is like a lighthouse guiding the direction of space-invading creatures in the vast sea, making it easier for those creatures from another world to open spatial channels to this world. The larger the sacrificial ritual, the more people will die, and the higher the level of the subsequent space invasion. The A-class space invasion in Rwanda in 1994 caused more than 1 million deaths. Who made the sacrifice? Who set up the demon eye? The one who made the demon eye is an anti-human cult called the Demon Eye. The disaster in Rwanda is just one of the blood debts of this cult. The history of this cult is too ancient, so ancient that it is difficult to trace back. The purpose of this cult's existence is to let another world completely descend into our world through space invasion and complete the devouring and destruction of our world. They call this devouring and destruction holy arrival. Among the 178 cults and mysterious organizations in the world confirmed by the Committee of Order, the demon eye ranks first in terms of danger. It is the common enemy of the governments of all countries. The people of the demon eye can kill them no matter where they see them. Who are the people who joined the demon eye? Are they the fallen summoners and awakened ones? That's only a small part of the demon eye. The expression on Li Yunzhou's face became solemn, and he was silent for a moment. In fact, there has always been a guess among the summoners that the first to create the demon I might be the non-humans who came to our world through space invasion. But those non-humans can live among us with the appearance of humans. After the Garden of Eden project in 1945 in Europe, the composition of the demon I became even more complicated. Ordinary people, summoners, and awakened ones who were actively or passively possessed by demon spirits or even devoured, fused, and parasitized will join the demon I. As for those who fused with demon spirits or were devoured and parasitized by demon spirits, we no longer know if they are still humans. Their bodies and genes have completely changed, and they will have some special abilities and even become terrifying monsters. Is the demon I an enemy that the Special Operations Department has to face in addition to space invasion? They are one of the most dangerous enemies. All creatures that have supernatural abilities and threaten the national security and social order of the Fire Country are our enemies. It turned out that Li Yunzhou's patience and seriousness toward Xia Pingan only lasted for less than 10 minutes. In the small conference room, after more than 10 minutes, Li Yunzhou, who had answered a few of Xia Pingan's questions, walked over and sat down on the table in front of Xia Pingan. He raised his eyebrows at Xia Pingan, and the topic suddenly changed. I heard that you drove to Tianjin shopping center with Enching today. This guy was just talking about the cults and mysterious groups listed by the Committee of Order as dangerous organizations, so why did he change the topic in the blink of an eye? Xia Pingan was still not used to this speed. Yes, Senior, is there a problem? Xia Pingan could only answer. Did Enching mention me to you in the car? Li Yunzhou licked his lips, and his voice was inexplicably wretched. No. Xia Pingan shook his head expressionlessly. Li Yunzhou suddenly chuckled. Hee, I knew it. She's still shy. It's right that she didn't mention me. This means that I've always been in her heart. Xia Pingan looked at him speechlessly. Xia Pingan's gaze made Li Yunzhou snort in dissatisfaction. Kid, what do you know? Didn't the boss take you to meet everyone for lunch? I didn't come down for lunch, so we're missing one person. Logically speaking, if you're missing a colleague on the way to Tianjin shopping center with Enching, would Enching mention me? Since she didn't mention me, it means that I have a special place in her heart. She has me in her heart. This was a logic genius. Looking at the satisfied and intoxicated Li Yunzhou, Xia Pingan couldn't help but ask, Senior, aren't you thinking too much? Li Yunzhou glanced at Xia Pingan condescendingly, flipped his long hair, and looked at the sky outside the classroom from the corner of his eyes. He looked melancholy. An ordinary person like you wouldn't know how many troubles and love debts a handsome person like me would encounter in his life. If being handsome was a sin, a person like me would have been cut into pieces a long time ago. As the #1 handsome guy in Shanghai City's National Committee of Order, it's normal for a female colleague to have a crush on me. Is that so? Of course. In fact, other than Enching, Fang Lingshan also has a crush on me. She's had a crush on me for many years. Just before we got off the plane and entered the elevator, did you see that she snorted at me and glanced at me? Xia Pingan's face was serious. Senior, I felt that her gaze was contemptuous. Contemptuous? Hee, this shows that you're still inexperienced. Shanshan just wanted to attract my attention. Women are very scheming. Didn't you notice that Fang Lingshan and Enching don't talk much? It's all my fault. Li Yunzhou's face was full of self-blame. If it weren't for me, there wouldn't be any conflict between them. It's just that one of them is as cold as ice, while the other is as bright as sunshine. I'm a soft-hearted person, and I don't want to hurt either of them, so it's hard for me to make a choice. Forget it, you won't understand even if I tell you this. By the way, it's good that you know these secret. Don't spread it out, lest Old Two and the others get jealous, and Enching and Shanshan meet awkwardly. After saying all this, Li Yunzhou saw that Xia Pingan was completely speechless. He yawned and suddenly became dispirited. I still have a mission tonight, so I'm going to catch up on my sleep. I've found some documents on the Committee of Order for you. You can slowly study them on the computer. If there's anything you don't understand, you'll slowly understand in the future. After saying this irresponsibly, Li Yunzhou shook his head and muttered things like, I have to light up the lamp again, and I have to consume my divine power again, before leaving Xia Pingan alone in the room. Xia Pingan smiled indifferently, then started to look at the documents on the computer in the room. More than 10 minutes later, Xia Pingan clicked on a document on the history of the National Committee of Order on the computer, and clicked on an old black-and-white photo from more than 100 years ago. The title of the old photo was 1856, Jinshan City, Great Fire Country, Jinshan City, Great Fire Country. In the photo, a man in armor was standing in front of the camera with a dignified appearance. The man had 2 double-barreled muskets on his waist. One of his hands was holding an old-fashioned lamp, while the other hand was holding a long saber. Behind the man, there was a huge bat demon with a wingspan of more than 8 meters. The bat demon spread its wings like a bat, but its body was like a human's. It had a human face, and fangs were exposed in its mouth. Its body was covered in blood, and there was a bowl-sized hole where its heart should be, through which one could see its back. Mo Yanshao, 2 Polu, and the others were going to light up the lamp tonight. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Nights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.